Out with you where sports meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Can't thank you enough for being a part of the show here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You're watching and listening to the show live on Facebook.com and YouTube.com, both / Wake Up Call DT, and of course on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. We are with you on the East Coast, the West Coast, the Midwest, and all around the globe. And very happy this morning to bring you our bi-monthly segment every other Tuesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. We feature Christy's Corner with the champ, International Boxing Hall of Famer, Christy Salters Martin. Can't wait to have her here on the broadcast in just a moment, picture in picture. And on the phone, we have our boxing photographer and the owner of our exclusive segment here, Christy's Corner, with PB&J's Lunchbox, Pat Orr, and we have special guest John Iceman Scully going to be joining us here on the broadcast as well. A boxing alum and current trainer who has done a lot of different things and worked in a lot of different pieces of the entertainment world, and I'm excited to have him on the show for the first time to speak on everything that he's experienced in, as Christy said off the air, a very small world when it comes to boxing. Hour 2, we'll be joined by Dave Pasiak speaking on the NBA as well as NIL and the transfer portal and what that's doing to collegiate athletics. And we'll finish with the ingredients to success, proudly presented by Avicolli. So, with all of that being said, I have a wonderful star-studded guest group today with Christy as well as John and Pat. I'm happy to have you all here on the broadcast. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Morning, Dan.
Yeah, I'm good.
So, Christy, I'll let you start this off as we always do. Why did you want to have Iceman on the show today?
As you go through the boxing world, especially, there are a few people that will publicly say what they really are thinking. And I've known Scully for a long time, and I think we're both alike in that way, that we say what we think, and sometimes people don't agree with it. Lots of times people don't agree with it, but we are who we are. So we're going to stand by our thoughts, and we're not afraid to put it out there. And Scully is that person. He does so much stuff for the Pritchard Cullen that was injured in a boxing match up in Philly. John raises money for him. Wilfredo Benitez. I mean, the list is long and keeps going. And it's great that he's helping, but it's sad that many fighters need the help, and they don't have a way to get the help other than by people like John Scully that's out there raising money, raffling off personal memorabilia, stuff that he has just to raise money to help these other fighters out.
John, why do you do what you do? I mean, you hear Christy talk about that this morning and the fact that you reach out to boxers and former boxers and help them where they need help. Why do you pay it forward? Why do you seek to make sure that other people are okay? And I mean, sometimes in the situation of what you're doing, you're the only person that's reaching out. So why do you do it?
It's so easy. It's so easy to help these guys. It would be crazy for me not to. I'm not calling out names or anything like that, but it's I have a lot of connections, more than me, and they're not utilizing them. I'll tell you how I realized how easy it was. It was about 8 years ago, and somebody told me, or I read online, I guess, maybe it was Wilfred Benitez was having issues, right? So he needed money for something, and I don't know what I had, a glove or something, and it was signed by, a star. I forget who it was. And I said, man, I could probably sell this and help Wilfred out. I get him a couple $100. So I did it. It was easy, and then it worked. So I started thinking about it. I said, I know a lot of people. Like I've always been a guy who's kept in touch with people. I always keep in touch with fighters since I was a kid. Since I first started boxing. So I called it might have been Roy Jones or James Toney, I think, and I had them sign something, a poster, I think, and I sold that. And it just dawned on me. This is the easiest thing in the world. I could raise money easily for these guys. And To me, I'll be honest, it wasn't even really a big deal. Like it was just something I was doing in my spare time, and the next thing I know, it just kind of snowballed, and people started talking about it. Now I have people literally, it's so awesome. I literally have people who I don't even know, Facebook people. They say, hey, man, give me your address. I'm going to send you an autographed glove of Macho Camacho that I got 20 years ago. And people send me stuff all the time. It's, it's really, I always call it a joint task force effort. Like, it's not just, I get the credit for it, but I get a lot of help from people who send me stuff and, the guys who sign stuff for me. And it's really been pretty cool.
Pat, you've met a lot of fighters, and you've been there to photograph a lot of different fights and different things in history. When you hear someone like, John Scully doing what he's doing for the boxing community, what does that mean to you to know that there's somebody out there that's thinking of other people all the time?
That's it's kind of what you live by. You want to help other people and stuff like that, and John Scully's taken advantage of some of the big boxing people out there, but he's taken advantage to help fighters that are in need. And there's fighters all over the place in need that he can help, or anybody else could help. It's just really good to see a person like John just pay it.
And John, I know that when you talk about these relationships and like you said, it was easy. It was easy to do something like this. Your relationship with Christy, tell me where it started, how it started. Paint us the picture of how you and Christy Martin crossed paths.
Well, the great thing about boxing is it's such a small world. Like, everybody kind of knows everybody. And even before you meet, you kind of know each other, and you see each other and you know who each other, who they are. And it's like you're friends. Like, people would see you meet for the first time and they would think you had been friends for 20 years. And it's like, nah, this is the first time I met her. You were standing right there when I met her. But, I knew Christy through the game and the internet, and she had the gym in Florida. And boxing is such a small world. I moved to Florida, and my wife picked out a house. We moved in the house. And so the first thing I did that day was find a boxing gym. And Christy's gym was literally like a mile from my house. Like, we just happened to move right next to the gym she used to have in Florida. And I had always told her I was going to stop in sometime. If I'm ever in Florida, it was the weirdest thing. I always told her if I'm ever in Florida, I'm going to pass by your gym. Not realizing that I moved a mile away. I walk in the gym, and the guy, and she could refresh my memory. I forget the guy's name, but the big, heavy-set Spanish guy that was running it at the time.
His name was Roy, yeah.
What was his name?
Roy.
His name was Roy.
Okay,
yep.
Right, exactly. So I'm driving by. Boxing is such a small world. I'm driving by. I didn't know the gym was there. I happened to look to my right, and through the window, I saw the ropes of the ring. So instantly, I know it's a boxing gym. So I pull over. I walk in off the street, unexpected. And when Roy sees me, and I didn't even know who Roy was, he goes, "Oh, hey, what's up, man? Christy told me you were going to be stopping by sometime." And I'm like, "She did?" Like, I don't even know who you are. I didn't even know this gym was here. And so I ended up going there and sparring with his son. And so boxing is a small world. And then Christy, she has the amateur boxing tournament. It was in North Carolina. And when I first heard about it, I just flashed back to my amateur days. I love going on trips and taking kids on trips. So we brought a team of kids, including a bunch of female boxers, to the tournament 2 years ago. And Christy was there, and we hung out. I arranged ahead of time to have her talk to the girls. And I'll tell you a crazy thing. Christy, I don't know if you obviously know this. I don't know if you know I knew this, but the crazy thing is, Christy's a star in the boxing game, especially to female boxers. She's Muhammad Ali, and it's so crazy. One of the girls on that trip, she told me like a few weeks later, she happened to mention she talked to you, and I go, you talked to Christy Martin? She goes, yeah, we text each other. And I said, really? Like, Christy gave you her number, and so she texts with the girl, for advice. The girl asks for advice. So, it's kind of like me as a kid if I was texting Sugar Ray Leonard, So I really give you credit for that, Christy. She's it's really funny because the girl's like, yeah, I texted Christy yesterday. So it's pretty cool.
But listen, John didn't just bring any team down. He brought down a great group of male and female young amateur boxers. And since that meeting, I told them that after the tournament that year, I said, you guys have adopted me, whether you wanted to or not. I am now part of your family. We will now be holding our amateur tournament in Hartford, Connecticut, in association with COBA. And I'm so excited. It's gonna be huge. It's gonna be awesome. The boxers are gonna be coming from all that area: New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, all the New England states. I mean, it's gonna be awesome. I can't wait. So you bringing the team down there and giving me the opportunity to meet all you guys again, and not just you, but the whole coach, the boxers. It really formed a relationship that now is going to help me grow my amateur tournament. Hopefully it helps COBA continue to grow all the awesome programs that they're doing. So, July 13th through the 16th, we're going to raise some, noise up there in Hartford, Connecticut.
Right. No, it's going to be huge. And it's funny because I used to dream about having a tournament, a national level tournament in Hartford. I never thought it would happen, but I used to think about that all the time. So when this came up, it was very exciting, because I always wanted to have people from all over New York and New Jersey and all New England, and I'm talking to people in Georgia and North Carolina. I want them to come up, and it's gonna be special. It's gonna be really good. But everybody in the gym is super excited about it, and it's gonna be a big thing for amateur boxing. It's gonna be a big thing for Hartford. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Christy, you just got referred to as a Muhammad Ali type, Sugar Ray. I mean, what do you, when you hear those words come from Iceman over here, what does that mean to you when he says, a girl texting you and, getting thoughts from you and whatnot is like texting Muhammad Ali?
It's pretty cool. I mean, I think that's what much bigger praise than I deserve. But it is cool. But it also shows that these young female team members that he had, they were special. I mean, but this is something that I do with a lot of people across the country. I do stay in touch with different boxers that we meet, whether it be pro or amateur, and try to give them encouragement and stay part of their career, part of their life, really more than their boxing career is really part of their life. That's especially with this team that John and COBA has up there in Hartford.
So, Christy, where would you like to go with Iceman here today? And John, I don't know if you know this because you and I talked for a couple minutes yesterday, but I've watched back some prior interviews, and there was a guy who you gave him some type of protein type drink and this and that he thought was a certain thing, and one day you didn't have it, so you went and found like a Red Bull and crushed up some mints and stuff in there. So there's some fun stories that you have with that. Christy, where would you like to go with Iceman today?
I mean, we could go so many different directions because John has, he's involved in so many different aspects of the boxing world, and then just so many positive things he does in life. But one of the things that recently you spoke out about, and I was right there jumping on your coattails, was about all the titles that these boxers and trainers want to win, and I'm paying to win. That mean absolutely jack shit nothing. And I mean, tell us what you think about how do we get rid of those titles? I mean, how do we get fighters and coaches to understand that they mean absolutely nothing, and they're hurting our sport.
You know, there's so many factors to it, right? There's so many reasons to it. One thing is, like, for example, you know, years ago, not even that long ago, but, you know, like, you could become the mandatory challenger. You know, you like, so say in the WBA, you're the mandatory challenger. It's like, all right, you're the number one contender. You're going to fight the champion within, you know, 90 days or whatever. Now what they do is they have two guys fight for a title, a championship, and that guy is, so instead of him just being the number one contender, now he's a champion, and he gets to fight for the title within 6 months. So, of course, a sanction fee comes with that, and so they're finding all these different ways to make money. All it does for me, there's two major factors. One is, which is really dear to my heart. I literally despise this with every fiber of my being. They are diluting the championship so far, so badly, that somebody said to me once a couple months ago, and it was funny, but it was true. He said, if you don't have a belt today in boxing, you must really suck. Because there are so many belts out there. Everybody's got a belt. People, I hate to offend fighters, but it is what it is. I see guys on the internet with pictures of themselves on Facebook, and they've literally got 2, 3, 4 belts around their shoulders, like, you know, like the champions do, like Tommy Hearns. You see a picture of Tommy Hearns, and he's got the belt over his shoulder, and, you know, these guys are taking these pictures, and I'm saying to myself, you've won 4 championships, and I don't even know who you are. I've never heard of you in my life, and I've never heard of your championship before.
That's the point. Like, not only have we, you know,
and they don't know that it's not a major title. Like, they win a UBA or something title, and they think it's right up there with, you know, WBC. Like, you're a world champion. It's like, no, you're not. Like, we cannot have 89 world championships. We're the only sport that does this, and it's gotten to the point where the sanctioning bodies don't even care anymore. They used to hide it. You know, it used to be a secret thing within us. But now they're just like, love it. Let's just have a regular champion and a silver champion. And think about this. I'm in the game. I've been in the game my whole life. I've trained world champions. I fought for the world title. I've been around boxers every day of my life. I don't know. If somebody asked me, if you guys asked me, not only who's the silver champion in the middleweight, but what is a silver champion? I'm in the game. I cannot tell you. I don't know what a silver champion is. I don't even know what that means. I can't even explain it to someone. So imagine if you went to a NCAA college football head coach and asked him to explain the divisions. He could do it in 2 seconds. He could illustrate it for you perfectly. Yet here I am in the game, and a guy will ask me, and I go, I really don't know. I have no clue. I mean, that's wrong. That's insane. I mean, how can fans know if I don't know? If I don't even know what the champion is? And you know, the championship is supposed to be special. And people tell me, a guy actually said to me, "Have you ever seen the face of a guy who wins a world championship?" And I go, "We're not in this. We're not trying to make people feel good. Like, you're supposed to be elite. You're supposed to go down in history. You're the best of your era, of your time. In 1989, you, from June of 89 to August of 94, you were the champion of the entire universe. Now, everybody's champion. Everybody's, you know, got a belt. It's like they're doing it with the amateurs. I hate it. And I predicted 10 years ago, I saw it coming. And I said that the sanctioning bodies are going to infiltrate amateur boxing. They're going to recruit kids. It's almost like indoctrination. They want a kid to covet a belt. They don't want him to covet a trophy. They want him to covet a belt. So when he's 9 years old, his dream isn't going to be to have trophies. It's going to be to have a belt. Well, no, there's no bigger belt than pro. So they're going to go pro because they want that pro belt. And there's a million of them to choose from. And every single one of them has one thing in common. They have a sanction fee attached to it that makes the people money at the sanction body. So they want more pros. So they want our amateurs to dream of these million belts that are out there. So that's where we're at. It's going to be tough to reverse. Probably not possible, but I'm going to spend every day of my remaining life trying to do it.
Yeah, well, you know what? It makes me feel better, though, that if you guys don't know, because I was thinking the same thing. Like, how is there like 72 different championships? I don't, like, how can you have all of these belts? And I didn't know. I was like, well, if this person's the leader of the world, and this person leads the universe, and this person leads the stratosphere, and this person leads the multiverse, I don't know who the champion is. And to hear you all talk about it in the boxing world, in my world as a broadcaster, I'm constantly confused about watching something on 1 week saying, well, this will determine our world champion. And then 3 weeks later, they're like, hey, do you want to know who the world champion's going to be? I'm like, well, we already know. I thought we knew. So
there was a guy recently, and I can't even remember his name. Like, look, here's the thing. When Marvin Hagler was champion, everyone knew it, and everyone knew him. You knew Marvin Hagler. He's famous. There was a guy recently, and if I could remember his name, I wouldn't say it. I don't want to embarrass anybody, but I read a thing where it said, "Oh, WBA junior middleweight champion, so and so," and I'm going, I've never heard of this guy in my life. When did he win the title? I didn't know. You know, and it's so confusing. I use this analogy many times, but off the top of my head, 30 years ago, the mid-1980s, right? Say the mid-80s. I could name for you 10 middleweights off the top of my head, right? Michael Nunn, Roberto Duran, Marvin Hagler, Tommy Hearns, James Schuler, Curtis Parker, Don Lee, Murray Sutherland, Wilfred Scipien, Robbie Sims, Roberto Duran, Ernie Singletary, right? Caveman Lee. I can't name you 3 from today, from right now. I can't name 3 top contenders. I cannot tell you. I don't know who they are because everybody's got a belt, and I thought this guy was champion, and it turns out he's not the real champion. He's the silver champion, which I don't even know what a silver champion is, but that's who he is. And it makes it where when I was a kid, I remember Willie Pep saw Rocky Marciano. Willie Pep was a young fighter, and he said he saw Rocky Marciano in Times Square, and he said, man, he told his manager, let's follow him. Like, let's see what the heavyweight champion of the world does. And he followed him. And it was reversed. Marciano saw Pep, and Marciano said, let's see what the featherweight champion of the world does. And he followed him around, and he thought it was just awesome because he's in the distance, within the distance, walking distance of the featherweight champion of the world. Now, almost every champion of the world could walk through Times Square right now. Nobody would know who they are. No one would have a clue who they are.
Well, I mean, I think if the 4 of us split up, we could each follow one of the champions since there's multiple at the same time.
Right. It's not a good thing, and like I said, I don't want to hate on people. That's what they think. Like, you're hating. I said, no, man, I'm being realistic. When you say who's the NCAA college football national champion, well, everybody knows. Whatever year it is, USC, whoever it is, the big boys. You don't have some guy from Louisiana junior college talking about he's the national champ, and it's like, well, you're not really a national champ. You're the national champ of junior colleges. Everybody knows that's a little different league. You're not the same league. But in pro, you got a guy with the IBR middleweight title, and his record is 9-3, and it's just horrible. It's a crime, and I don't want it to be so diluted where everybody's a champion, everybody's got a belt. It's just it's not a good thing. It's not. People think, oh, it's good because you promote the fight, and I said, man, but you're promoting it to people who don't have any clue what they're talking about. And you get it like we had a guy in Connecticut years ago, about 15 years ago, and he won like it's like a very minor title, a North American, but it wasn't even a major sanction body. But he brought the belt with him to one of the fights at the casino, and he's there. And when he walked away, one of the guys that was talking to him was, man, I didn't know we had a world champion in Hartford or in Connecticut. And I'm thinking, the guy told you he's world champion? Like, he's not world champion at all. Like, and you can easily fool them. You could, I could tell someone, even now at my age, I'm long retired, I could tell people, I was WBC champion. They'd be like, really? I didn't realize that. Oh, that's crazy. And they would believe it because I was in the paper a lot. People know who I am around my New England or whatever, and they would just figure, well, I see a lot of belts, so yeah, you having one makes sense. Like everybody has one.
Christy?
What do you think about now in the amateurs? Every tournament, I mean, even the club shows, the winner gets a belt. In my opinion, I really don't want to do that at our tournaments, but I might force to because all the coaches ask and the fighters ask, is it a belt tournament? But don't you think that takes away how special it is when you become a pro and you become a world champion and you get to put that belt around your waist? I mean, you've already been getting belts all your life as an amateur. So
you know what?
What is it? Doesn't that take away the little bit of the desire and the that's what I want? That's the big goal?
It would be like in the major leagues, the baseball players get or the NFL players get a Super Bowl ring, right? And so everybody knows, the Super Bowl ring is the ultimate goal. Everybody gets a ring on the team. Even if you're the third string punter, you're on the team, you get that ring. Your team won the Super Bowl. Now, and I don't want to insult kids, but it's like you have kids who wouldn't have a prayer of winning the local Golden Glove tournament, and yet in their house at 17 years of age, they have 3 WBC belts. That's insane. But I predicted this years ago. I said it. It's on the internet. You can find it. I said it. I'm Nostradamus. 10 years ago, I said the sanctioning bodies are going to infiltrate amateur boxing, and the kids they're going to indoctrinate the kids into wanting these belts. When I was a kid, you wanted a trophy. You knew, and here's the thing. I used to do shows at a place called the San Juan Center. It was a gym in Hartford. Everybody knew. I give a bigger trophy to the winner, and I give either a much smaller trophy or a medal to the loser. And that's what you were. You either win or you lose. You did not just participate. There's a fact that you won or you lost. If you lose, you get a medal or a smaller trophy. That way, everybody knows that guy with the big trophy, he won. That guy with the medal, he lost. And that's it. But now, they don't want to hurt people's feelings, they took, it's like our society in general. They took dodgeball out of high school, right? You can't play dodgeball anymore. You know why? Because the weaker kids got destroyed. Well, I was just talking to friends of mine.
Doesn't that make you want to become stronger? I mean, you start getting the first one that gets banged out in dodgeball. You don't want to let that happen again. So you either try to avoid the ball or get stronger.
Greatest game on the face of the earth. If you want, at my school, I was in a pretty rough junior high school, right? If you wanted to get 50 boys to stay after school for 2 hours, tell them dodgeball at 3 o'clock, and they would not only stay. It was war, and you knew if you're a weaker kid or not athletic, you knew don't go to the gym on Wednesdays at 3 o'clock because you're going to get destroyed. And if you want to try it and step your game up, that's where you go to become a man among boys. You go to dodgeball. Now they got it out of there because they don't want anybody to feel bad. They want everybody to be the same. Well, we're not the same, and that's what a belt and a bigger trophy illustrates. It lets you know, because I want to be the guy. I have a trophy room in my house. I have nice stuff. I have trophies and I have this and that. I don't want a bunch of trophies where people come over and go, Oh, what about that trophy? Where'd you get that one? Oh, that's when I lost to Joe Davis in Bridgeport.
Right.
What about that one? Oh, that's when I lost to Bobby Smith in Wallingford.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and then people would be like, "You have 46 trophies for losing them?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it really makes no sense. Like it's part of a bigger sociological issue where they want everybody to have a trophy. But a trophy, the whole point of the trophy is to show that, hey, I was a little bit better than everybody else. That's why I got the trophy. Yeah, we all got the trophy.
Right.
Well,
Right.
it's funny that y'all mentioned that because in the studio, and I don't know why they made them this small, but in the studio over my shoulder, I have a basketball championship trophy that I won back in '99 with my team. Now, I present this because the participation trophy was the exact same looking. So we won the championship, and they hand this to us, and then they hand me another trophy that says, thanks for being here. And that thanks for being here trophy, I have no idea where it is. It's in some bin in my parents' basement, but this one sits in my studio. I won MVP of the playoffs. We won the championship. That's here. And they're like, where's the other one? I was like, it's in the trash. And I had a baseball one that was like, thanks for coming out and holding a bat and looking up at the sky and eating Jolly Ranchers at the end of the game. I mean,
Thanks for being the second worst player in the league.
Yeah, it's like, and that's the thing.
You know what I did, honestly? A few years ago, I went through all my stuff, trophies, stuff, and I threw away some of the stuff, some of the plaques I got, because, they were like runner-up plaques, and I'm like, I don't even want this. Like, and I threw away some of the stuff. The only, I was a runner-up at the National Golden Gloves, which is a huge accomplishment. So I obviously kept that. But, being runner-up at a tournament locally where there's only me and another guy, you know what I mean? I wasn't, fawning over it on a daily basis. But, yeah, it's, we live in weird times, and do you know now? And Christy, you must have run into this where you try to make amateur fights. A coach will ask you, "Do you have belts?" And I'm literally, I play dumb. I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" You giving belts to the champions? I go, "Well, they're not champions. They're the people who won the fight. Like, it's not a tournament; it's a show." And they go, "Oh, no, we're not coming." They won't come if you don't give out a belt to the winner. That's ridiculous. That's where we're at.
That's just ridiculous, John. It's ridiculous, and that's why even like with the tournament that we're going to have in July, part of me wants to, let's do a belt for the most outstanding boxer.
Yes,
but to do a belt to everybody that wins is crazy.
Well, here's the thing.
You have to do it to get the fighters to come.
Get a belt.
Well, I mean, so basically what y'all are saying is if you have 40 fighters, you need to somehow come up with 40 different reasons to have a belt, and then if Pat comes and shoots it and I broadcast, we get a belt too. Is that how that works?
That's how it works.
But,
That's how it works.
Like I say, I'm all about maintaining history. I'm all about, like, the medal is for the loser. The medal is for the loser.
Yeah, always.
The bigger trophy is for the winner. And that's it. Like, that's it. But we've become soft. And look, it's no coincidence. Like, where the rest of the world is catching up to us in everything. You remember a few years ago, like, the Dream Team got beat by a team from Italy. Right? You remember that? Now, if I told you 30 years ago a bunch of Italian guys would beat Shaq, right? You'd be like, that would be crazy. Right. But now, other countries, and I'll tell you what, I'm with Arthur Beterbiev. Arthur's the light heavyweight champion of the world. He's got all knockouts. He's the most fearsome fighter in the world, right? He's the hardest punching, all of that. He's a killer. We have to bring in very high-level sparring partners to even last with him, right? So we bring guys in from, I'll give you an example. There was a guy He came in from Croatia. The only thing I knew about Croatia was basketball back in the Dream Team days. I associate Croatia with basketball. I didn't realize what kind of people live in Croatia till I met this guy. He's sparring with Arthur. And every day I'm driving him to the gym and back and forth. So we're talking, and he's telling me casually, like, what life is like in Croatia. And at one point, he tells me there was a guy in the gym in Montreal. He didn't like the guy. And he goes, oh, I don't like this guy. I don't like him. So I go, oh, why? And then he goes, he's always laughing and smiling. And he didn't realize I was joking. I go, yeah, it's crazy, right? And he goes, but he didn't like the fact that the guy was so happy. So I go, man, where you live, he'd have to stay in the house all day. Without skipping a beat, he says, and in complete seriousness, he says, no, we go in and we get him. So as I'm talking to this guy every day, I'm realizing he's serious. Like, their mentality over there is different. And he's proved it to me by this. Most guys, especially American guys, they come in, they know what they're dealing with Arthur. And if they got to box more, they got to box more. And I tell them, like, hey, man, don't be a hero. Like, I know Arthur's a killer, man. Don't trade punches with this guy. You're not getting paid enough. Just box and, get through this. This guy is asking us. He wants to go at it. He wants to go to war with Arthur. He wants to find out. I'm saying that's a man bred in a country, not America. You know what I mean? And we're I notice it with all the guys, because we have sparring partners from all over the world. Their mentality all over the world is different than the American guys. That's a fact.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is you all brought something up today here on Christy's Corner on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, with Christy Salters-Martin, International Boxing Hall of Famer, and Pat Orr here with us, PB&J's Lunchbox on 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Also a photographer in the world of boxing. And today, our special guest, John Iceman Scully, boxer, trainer, and man of many hats here in this world, and also someone who believes in paying it forward, which above all means so very much of what he's doing for people in the boxing world and beyond to make sure that they get up on their feet and stay on their feet. What we're describing this morning is something that I've talked teenagers, people in their 20s right now, somewhere in that sweet region of, like, if they're teens or in their early 20s, these kids that don't come to work, don't show up on time, don't call you, train but never come for their first day, don't know what they're doing, on their phone, tell you that they don't have to do it that way or they know a better way to do it. Those are the kids that were given a trophy for showing up. And when people say, why is society the way it is right now? Because we bred, like John said, we bred these children. We indoctrinated these children to have the belief that if you do nothing, don't leave your couch and sit there, we will hand you a trophy, we will bring you food, we will give you money. All you have to do is be alive to be successful. And that's not how life works. And now we're not reaping the benefits of it. We're getting the spoils. We have the opposite, because now as these people enter the workforce and go out there and look at life, they walk up to Apple and go, I'm the CEO. And the guy who is the CEO says, why? And the kid goes, because I think I am. And then they expect the guy to just leave his seat, hand him the check, and go, well, have a good time being the CEO until the next kid comes around and says he's the CEO.
He identifies as the CEO.
Yeah, that's what I say all the time. I identify as the head of Disney, so why don't I get that money? So, I mean, I don't understand, but I don't understand why somebody would do this, but society has come to this point. The everybody gets a trophy society has now bred us lunatics and people who don't want to work for anything.
Right.
Well, and they know it all too. One of the hardest things with hiring now is that people don't understand that as a business owner, you already have your success plan and the way you want things done and stuff like that. And it's nothing for somebody that you hire to not make a sandwich exactly the way you want them to. Well, I don't like tomatoes, so I'm not going to put it on there. Well, I don't like this, I'm not going to put it on it.
Yeah.
I have that problem with my grilled cheese. I make a honey mustard and I put that on. They don't like it, so they don't want to put it on it. It's not their choice for that. It's my restaurant. And I think that's one of the hardest things for employers now is that the people, you want them to be knowledgeable and know what they're doing and stuff and to be excited, but you'll listen to their opinions, but you're not going to necessarily implement everything that they think you should do for your business. You didn't hire them to change your business. You hired them to help make it successful.
Right.
And that's something that the younger generation just doesn't get right now.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
And that's, but again, that's because they were told you don't have to do anything to get a paycheck. You don't have to do anything to be successful. You just have to show up. And that's the thing. Like, I coach soccer. I didn't want a participation trophy. Like, if we lost, we lost. Like, the season that I coached in Pennsylvania, I coached U12. I had 8 to 11-year-olds. Loved those kids. We won the last game on a golden goal, and I didn't even know what that was at the time because we had never done anything like that. I had no idea what was going on. We weren't supposed to play overtime, and he asked the coach, he goes, "You want to play overtime?" And the coach said, "Yeah." And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Okay, let's play overtime." And then my kid, right at the beginning of overtime, kicked a golden goal from a corner kick. And then the coach was like, yeah, I don't know if we should have played overtime. I was like, nah, it already happened. It's done. And at the end of that game, those kids chased me down. It was 31 degrees outside, poured water and Gatorade all over me. It was one of the greatest moments of my life to be there because they were proud that they fought for something. And even though we didn't go to a championship and we didn't win a belt and we didn't all get a trophy, they were proud of the fact that they ended the season on a high note and it made them want to work towards something. When everybody gets a trophy, nobody wants to work toward anything.
Right. You're breeding a bunch of people who settle for mediocrity. It's bad. It's bad. It's you see it every day. I'm in the gym every day, so I'm dealing with kids because our gym is for kids 8 to 18. So if you can't join the gym if you're 19, so you got to be a kid. And so I'm seeing the mentality of so many of these kids, and like I say, it's not like it was. And everybody says, "Oh, my era was better." Listen, my era was absolutely, for boxing, my era was absolutely, we had so many killers, and just in Hartford, I can name you so many guys specifically who were in it to win it. Like, everything was win, and everything was, sparring was, horrific in the gyms. And
now fighters don't even want to spar, John. I mean, no, we can't spar. We don't want to spar hard. I mean, come on. We were in the last, in my opinion, and I think I'm a little bit after you, not too far, but that I was part of the last great, like, boxing rivalry, get in there and fight era. Whether it was guys,
right, boxing was
at whatever level. I mean,
to me, and
they were fighting.
And I grew up in that culture of, you're breeding fighters, like even guys who weren't champions or, even as amateur, they weren't high-level amateurs, but if you sparred with them, you were in a fight because these guys wanted to be in your position. But now it's the kind of thing, there's so many people that do like, oh, we're just going to do technical sparring and we're just going to, we're going to do this, we're going to work on technique and stuff. And I see so many guys, they don't want to, they get hit. And like I saw this fighter recently in the gym and everything was great other than the getting hit part. Like, and like when they got hit, they would close their eyes and they would just, they didn't have the mentality. And I'm explaining to them, listen, you have to, it's not your athletic ability. You have to change your mentality. If you don't change your mentality, nothing else is going to matter. You could be the fastest, sleekest, quickest, most dynamic, athletic person on the face of the earth. But if you don't have the mentality, it means nothing. You're going nowhere. You're wasting your time, my time, and everybody's time. And mentality is lost where everybody now, it's more in the flash. You get kids talking. I had a kid asking me, he was just starting boxing. He wanted to know who his strength coach was going to be. He asked me. He's like 15 years old. I go, and I was like, what? He goes, listen, You're lucky I'm coaching you. Like you're lucky you got the membership. He just go over there and hit the bag. But he thought he was going to have like a special guy to take him and do 2 hours a day of strength training. And he never had a fight in his life. I had another kid. He wouldn't go out. He wouldn't go out to his fight until they played the walk-in music. Because he saw on TV that they play music when you walk to the ring. He refused to leave the room until a song played. I said, man, we're in the wrong era. I don't belong here at all.
I think this era they don't defend their belts as much either. You don't see like
nobody does.
The title defenses.
I'm embarrassed.
Christy did, and the rest of the fight. I mean, Canelo is probably the only one that really defended his titles.
Muhammad Ali defended his at 35, I think he was. He defended his title 5 times, and he was the heavyweight champion, the most famous athlete in history. He defended his title 5 times in 1 year. Now, the guys fight, like Floyd did it. Floyd was the guy. May and September. He fought May and September every year, twice. Yeah. And they, they're not hungry. Marlon Starling, who not even on the ballot for the International Boxing Hall of Fame, fought before he became champion. He became champion in 87. From 81 to 87, he fought top contenders. Nowadays, guys won't fight anyone of any kind of threat unless it's for a belt, right? Yep. It has to be for World Championship belt or I'm not fighting. Marlon Starling fought Kevin Howard, Kevin Morgan, Pedro Vieira, Johnny Bumpus, Lupe Aquino in non-title fights just to learn his craft and make money. But now, if this was in this era, those would all be world championship fights. And, so the whole mentality of our sport is, I don't know if it's happening in other sports, but in our sport, we're breeding softer people. And I don't. I'm a different type of person. I get these. I'll tell you a great story. Some people may not think this is great. I think this is awesome. And Christy, knowing you, I think you're gonna like it too. Now, in my gym, it's mostly kids, and so, and there's like 18, there's 18-year-olds, and it's you're not trying to get people hurt necessarily, right? Because it's a, youth gym, but. When I'm alone, when they tell me, like, all right, work with the guys, we're going to have you take over today. I say, oh, good, let me take over. I get everybody in the ring, and I go, listen, let me explain something to you guys. I said, we're going to spar today, but it's going to be a little different. I said, I want someone to die or go to the hospital today. Somebody's getting hurt. Right? I said, I've been in this gym for 4 years. I've never seen anyone get dropped. I want someone to go down. Don't you want to knock somebody down? Don't you want to cause somebody's nose to bleed? I mean, come on. And you can see the kids smiling. Like, they think I'm crazy, but you can see them smiling. And I'm telling you, they let loose on Iceman Day. On Iceman Day, it's like, all right, we're fighting. And I'm telling them, I want someone to die. and seeing them, almost like they're like looking at me like, are you sure? Like, are you sure it's okay? Yeah. I go, yeah, man, let it go. And they fight. And I can see people outside the ring like laughing. They think it's so funny.
I feel like when you tell that story and you say that there's 8 to 18-year-olds, I feel like that guy from Croatia on Iceman Day comes back and he says, I am 18. I
was scared of that guy. I gotta be honest. I was scared of that guy because I was like, man, I don't know if I can say anything because I don't know if I'm going to offend this guy and they're going to find me behind the building or something. So I was really, after he told me his mentality, and that's what I look as a boxing coach, and I gear that towards my entire life. Instantly, I read everybody I deal with. I read their mentality. I can figure out what kind of human being they are quickly. And in the gym, I'm constantly working on trying to change their mentality for the better. And I, not pat myself on the back or anything, but I think we need more of that. Boxing skill is great and teamwork is great and participation is great, but we still want winners. You still want to win. I know when I was coming up as a kid, like in Little League Baseball, I can remember winning and I remember losing. Yeah. And it's been 45 years, and believe me, the winning was a lot better. It felt a lot better.
Yeah, and you're supposed to know, and you're supposed to be able to lose with grace, too. We're going to go into rapid fire here. Christy's Corner on Wake Up Call here with the International Boxing Hall of Famer Christy Salters-Martin, as well as Pat Orr, photographer in the world of boxing and the owner of PB&J's Lunchbox, which brings this segment to you exclusively on Wake Up Call, bi-monthly on Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And today with John Iceman Scully, boxer, trainer, and wearer of many hats, and teller of many awesome stories. And Christy, you know what, John, I got to give it to you. Christy said that you don't hold back and you tell it like it is. You have lived up to that today in every way, shape, and form. So we're going to play rapid fire. What this allows us to do is to ask questions about boxing or anything. Could be music, movies, TV, whatever we want to talk about. And we're going to get an opportunity to each ask each other a question. So we'll go down the line. Christy, you have the opportunity to ask John a question to start off rapid fire. What do you got?
Stick with boxing. John, if there were one fighter from any era, it could be today or, those years gone by, that you would like to share the ring with, and who would it be?
Marvin Hagler.
Ooh.
Woo.
100%. And I'll tell you a quick story. Why? When I was a kid, there was a guy in Hartford going to spar with him, and at the time he was making $500 a week, which was good money for sparring. But they told him, they said, listen, Marvin doesn't play in the gym. They said, it's good money, they're going to take care of you, you're going to get a nice hotel, everything, but there's a good chance at some point you're going to get hurt. We just want you to know that ahead of time. And ever since then, I was like, man, I would love to be in that situation. So Hagler.
All right, Scully.
Nice. Awesome.
Scully, what's your question for Christy?
I always love these kind of questions. In your entire boxing career, even if it's somebody not famous, who hit you the hardest?
Wow. I have to say Layla, because when she hit me on top of the head, first round of the fight, I was out. She just didn't know I was out. I hung in there for a few more rounds, but really, I was done.
So you could feel her power.
Yeah, well, yeah. That one put me on. That one put me out. So I don't think I felt any of the others because I was already out.
Right.
All right, Pat, what's your question for Scully?
A question for Scully. Let's see. Who would you, from the New England area, say was the most exciting boxer from New England?
Mickey Ward. No. Well, Mickey, maybe the toughest, but the most exciting in and out of the ring and before the fight and after the fight was Vinny Paz.
Yeah.
And listen, I sparred with Vinny 100 rounds. We sparred a lot. And
yeah.
I always say, you didn't spar Vinny. You fought Vinny. Like, even in the gym, he was a freaking maniac. Like, you were fighting. You were fighting for your life every time you sparred Vinny. 100%.
Yeah. He had a special kind of craziness, right?
Oh, he used to do the thing, everything he did in fights, he did in the gym. He used to wind up his right hand and throw the big overhand right. And one time, he used to grab the top rope. He's done it in fights a million times.
Yep,
and then he would punch you off that with his left hand. And so when he would do that with me, I would stop and I would just turn around and I would walk back to the center of the ring. And he'd be like, you figured that one out, huh? I was, yeah. I've been here before. But yeah, Vinny was awesome.
All right, Scully, what's your question for Pat?
Are you a photographer?
I am. I'm a Hall of Fame photographer.
I think you took a picture. Did you ever take pictures in Utica, New York?
Yep.
You took a picture of me in 1999 with Buddy McGirt that I still have.
Nice.
I recognize your name because your name is on the back of the picture.
Yep. And I used to see you at the Pasiak fights because I used to shoot his fights after he broke his neck and he came to the Hall of Fame. I hooked up with him and I shot all his fights. So.
Okay, so you know, Vinny's a special guy. You know what? There's only, in my entire 40-something years in boxing, there's only 2 guys who've ever cooked for me. Right? He's one of them. He actually cooks me dinner, a full dinner at his house.
Nice.
Yeah, Vinny's a unique individual for sure.
Maybe we could get him to cook for us during the amateur tournament.
Let's go. Vinny,
There we go.
Hey, you catch him on the right day, he may actually do that.
Right.
I like it. Pat, your question for Christy?
Question for Christy. Let's see. I don't think I was prepared for this today, but I think with all the speaking engagements and everything that she does, is there any place that you would like to talk? Like any particular group that you would like to go and just like spend a day with and talking with and that?
So I have 2 comments about that. I think I did that to a very special group up in Chicago. I spoke at an all-boys school, and I think it was like one of the most important, if not the most important audience that I had ever spoken to. And they had the greatest questions. Afterwards, they had really put some thought into the questions and to the conversation that we had. So I think that was a very special group. I am going home to Mullins, West Virginia in a couple of weeks and I'm not even comfortable with it, to speak at our little Dogwood Festival that we have. And when they asked me to come, I said no, because these are my people. This is me. I don't want to come speak. And then after listening to them, no, you will give inspiration to people here and share your story and talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about. So I think that's going to be an important speaking engagement that I don't know which direction it will go in and exactly what I'll talk about, but hopefully I will be able to give some inspiration to some young people there that maybe aren't sure what direction they want to go in life yet.
Well,
Absolutely.
If anybody,
the Chicago one was remarkable.
Yeah, if anybody can inspire Christy, it's you. What's your question for Pat?
Oh, Pat, we've had a very busy couple weeks. Being in a movie?
What'd you say? You cut out for a second. What'd you say, Christy?
Have you ever thought about acting in a movie?
To you, Pat.
To me?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Oh.
I like watching movies, but I don't want to be in a movie.
All right, fair enough. I like it. So, my turn now. So, Christy, you can ask me a question.
Well, I kind of already did, and this is a little bit because I think the message came from Pat actually, but I'll rub it in just a little bit. I read over the weekend that West Virginia University kind of snatched one of the Syracuse players. Not just that, but what are your thoughts on college players getting paid now?
It's a great lead into the second hour of the show today with Dave Pasiak and what NIL and the transfer portal is doing to collegiate athletics, if you can even call it that anymore. And my thoughts on it, I mean, it's free agency. You're negotiating a contract. They don't want NIL and the transfer portal to intermingle with each other, but they can't stop it because there's no parameters and there's no rules. So NIL can. So if I'm a coach and the season ends and I want to bring in a center from North Carolina and I'm out in Kansas, I can reach out to them in the portal, say, call me. They can call me and I could say, hey, we're going to get you $100,000. We're going to get you a car. We're going to get you a nice apartment off campus. And so now I'm Kansas. Now Texas calls that we're going to get you $150,000. We're going to get you a bigger car. You know, what do you want? And then somebody else calls and says, we're going to get you $500,000 if you come out here to Gonzaga. I know it's a little more of a trek, but you're going to make more money. So now you could do that. Now you can negotiate, you can leave. And again, we talk about the society where people don't have responsibility and they don't care and they don't build and they don't go through adversity because they just run away when adversity strikes. You could do that now, but now you can run away and make money. You can run away and get these endorsement deals. And so, you know, there's no parameters. It's not good for the kids in the sense of the fact it's good that they can make something, because the NCAA saying that it's a non-for-profit organization is a joke. But the other side of it is, without parameters, they are literally using NIL. They're using money to lure kids in the transfer portal to different places. And if they say tampering's not going on, they're out of their minds. You shake hands at the end of the game and the coach leans in you and says, hey, call me after the season. I got something for you. So basically what they did is they legalized the breaking of rules. That's what they did. They've legalized everything that coaches would have gotten in trouble for in the past is now legal. And now you can cheat to win, and you can do a lot of things that, I mean, you essentially can just tell a kid you have money and resources and put them in the transfer portal. And you have to re-recruit your team every single year. And God forbid that kid has to learn on the bench as a freshman. He's going to leave your program because somebody else is going to let him play. So nobody's learning anymore. And everybody thinks they can go to the NBA. Everybody thinks they can go to the NBA. I don't know what type of drugs these people are on, but there's some psychedelic ones, because it's a hard thing to get into the NBA, but everybody thinks
trophy.
What'd you say?
It's because everybody gets a participation trophy, so they all think they're winners.
Right.
Yeah.
No one has to work to become better.
It's crazy.
But I have two questions about the...
Who would think that West Virginia would outbid Syracuse for their starting center?
Right.
They doubled the money.
Well, it was also, I mean, when I did the exclusive with Jesse, so I was the only one that had him on, and we were talking, and when we did this last week, we had the conversation about the fact that international NIL is different because, you know, and John, you can attest to this, because, you know, with the international NIL in Croatia, you know, they said, how do you get these people to play for you? And he said, we go and we get them. And so, but the reality is, you know, the international NIL was strange because of the visa. And so Syracuse, apparently, from what I understood from Jesse and I talking in that conversation, is they weren't prepared to answer the questions, and they maybe didn't know the parameters or whatever it may be. Other schools were farther ahead, so they were being told they can't do it. These players internationally were being told they can't get involved in NIL because their visa would be taken back. And then he saw some of his friends were doing it, and he saw the money they were getting, and he said, okay, well, then I should be able to try that. And that's what he did. What were you going to say, Chris?
Do players, these players that are transferring, do they get to play next year? Do they have to sit out any time, or they just get to come? He just gets to transfer from Syracuse and play next year in West Virginia.
Yeah, he gets to play immediately. There's a one-time transfer thing that was waived, so you're now allowed to transfer. The first time you transfer, you don't have a year of residency, so you play immediately, which is why it's free agency.
So then my second question is, you remember, like, and I think it was with the Olympic athletes, they would get endorsement deals, but it had to stay in some kind of fund because getting money makes you a professional. So are these college athletes getting this money like right now, or are they getting it when they leave the college, or how's that working?
No, I mean, I think with each person they're signing contracts, so I don't know exactly how they're getting it. I think it's individual, but I don't know of schools that are putting it away and making them wait for it, because they're handling these things on an individual basis. And so, I mean, to go into the transfer portal, for example, you don't even have to tell your coach. So if I'm your coach and Scully goes into the transfer portal, he doesn't even have to tell me that he's leaving. So then I go in the transfer portal and I see his name there, and I can call him and say, what's up? And he doesn't have to answer me. So, you know, it's very player friendly. I'm not going to call it a student athlete because it's not. It's very player friendly. And as far as the money goes, they could do what they want to do with the money. And some schools have collectives like Miami where you can where they actually tell people donate to our collective and we'll choose where we put the money. So you donate $1 million to the collective of Miami and they can go out and get a quarterback for $500,000 and 2 wide receivers for the other $250 if they want to. Or they can use it on basketball, or they can use it wherever they want to use it. But if you put the money in the collective, it's essentially just a bank account. It's like escrow for them, and it's, I don't know, it's out of hand.
But doesn't once those athletes take that money, doesn't that make them a professional?
Yeah.
And how are they still able to compete in college sports?
You are asking a wonderful question, and in true NCAA fashion, as if I was president of the NCAA, to answer your wonderful question that you asked that makes total sense, their answer would be the same. I don't know. They don't. They have no idea. They have no answers. They're changing their president right now. They're changing their bylaws. They're trying to figure out who they are as an institution. None of this makes any sense. And so, I mean, the reality of it all is I would love to tell you that there's an answer because it does make them essentially a professional. But that's not the case anymore. There's nothing in collegiate athletics right now that screams college or amateurism, yet they're still calling it that. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's ruining the sports.
Yeah, it's ruining everything. It's ruining the fan bases. Scully, if you're with us here, you got a question for me?
Let's see. How did you get started in broadcasting, radio?
I was fighting a man from Croatia, and I thought to myself I should do something else.
It's not worth it.
So when I was a little kid, and I still have it. I have it in my office. My dad had a word processor, and to those people that don't know what that means, it was a glorified typewriter that had a little screen on it, a little black and green screen. And so it was a typewriter where you could actually see what you were typing. And my dad had it, and he let me use it. And when I was 5 years old, I get up on a Saturday morning. My dad would turn it on for me before he went outside because he loved to do landscaping and whatnot, and still does. And so I would go out there, and I would go to the kitchen table. I'd climb up on the chair, and I'd start writing stories. And doing that, to me, I've always had a big imagination. I loved it, and it made me feel good, and it came free from me. It just like kind of flowed right out of me. And then I realized growing up as a kid, I love collecting cards, and I have a photographic memory. So I'd collect a card, I'd flip it over, I'd be at dinner, and I'd start spewing off all these stats to my mom and dad. Hey, did you know that this guy had 20.7 points per game, and as a rookie, he averaged 14 rebounds? And did you know that he was drafted from Arizona in 1993, 7th overall? And so my love for sports, my love for collecting, my photographic memory, my passion for telling stories, and my genuine love for helping people all just went into a pot, and it turned into broadcasting. And I can't believe I'm saying this at 37 years old, but when I turn 38 this year, I will have been a broadcaster. A month after that, I will have been a broadcaster for 20 years because I started when I walked into college, which is nuts.
That's
Cool.
So I will come back with my questions to everybody here, but Pat, what do you got for me?
Who is your favorite boxer ever, and why?
Oh man, that's hard. I mean, two people came to mind for me growing up, and I would probably say, because as a kid growing up at school, I tried to be friends with everybody. I tried to be nice to everybody, and for some odd reason, that gets you bullied when you're just nice to everyone and you don't have a clique. And so I would say probably Muhammad Ali. And, growing up just watching and hearing him, and he wasn't afraid of anybody. Nothing fazed him. And he just, I don't know, he had an incredible story in the way that he went about what he went about and the passion that he had. And we were all talking about the fact that he would defend his honor. I don't know, flow like a butterfly, sting like a bee. I mean, I just, I just, there was something about what he did and how he did it that just, I mean, I really liked Mike, and I liked watching Mike, but Mike was a killer. I mean, he was just a killer. And when, when he would fight, it was, I remember thinking to myself, if I ever met Mike Tyson, I would want to make sure that we were friends immediately. And, I don't ever want to be on his bad side. So I guess it was like with Muhammad, it was everything about enjoying him and enjoying like kind of hearing him speak and do his thing. If it was Mike, it was just the cold-blooded killer. It was the fact that like you could watch him get into a ring and they're like, all right, folks, let's see how many guys down. Fight's over. And you're like, what? So like, I mean, I think watching Mike, I mean, me as a kid seeing that, I didn't know if there was anybody that was more kind of animalistic at that point. And then as I've grown older, I mean, I loved watching Mayweather recently with these guys that are trying to like move into boxing from UFC, and they're trying to like see if they could do it, and just seeing how Floyd kind of like played with people. He let you go a few rounds, let you think you had it, and I said, oh, he's just waiting to lay that blow. And so I did watch, I enjoy watching one of his fights recently where, he's kind of letting people know to stay out of the ring and not everybody can transition. So I think at different places, different things, but I think overall entertainment was Mike Tyson. Had to be. All right, Pat, I'll come back to you going down the line here. If you can make any sandwich at PB&J's that would adequately describe my personality, what would it be?
A scrambled egg breakfast burrito.
Scrambled egg breakfast burrito. Now that sounds disrespectful because you said scrambled, but I wanted to tell me why.
Well, because sometimes it's like you have so much knowledge and you're talking so much, it's just scrambled to me.
Nice. Okay. Running stream of consciousness is what I call it. But yeah. Okay. A scrambled egg burrito. Okay. Scully, what's your question for me? Oh, no, I'm sorry. I got a question for you. So, Scully, okay. So, I want to know how you got the nickname Iceman, because I also have the nickname Iceman, but mine, I'm very confident, came in a totally different way.
Right. Well, actually, I mean, it didn't really have anything to do with boxing, contrary to... but when I was a kid, it was a thing where in our neighborhood and, my clique of friends, the biggest thing, I don't know what they call it where you are, but we call it ranking, like...
Yeah.
The head, right? You say you got was square. So they call it to this day, to this very day. I talked to him 2 days ago, and hey, Square, what's up, man? What you doing? So he said my head was square. Yeah. So they would go to fights, my amateur fights, and I actually have a videotape from 1985, them yelling, "Come on, Square! Come on, Blockhead! Come on, Ice Block!" So they went to the ice block, a block of ice, and it all started from there, and it just stuck.
Yeah, it turned into Iceman. Okay, all right. I like it. You know what? Turning a negative into a positive, kind of like when someone calls you scrambled on your own show in the morning. All right, Christy, my question for you, if you were president of the United States today, what's the first thing you would do?
Oh, my goodness. Retire? Resign? Resign, because there's no way in hell I would want that responsibility. Yeah, I don't even know where do you start. I'm going to be honest with you. So I've been gone for 2 weeks. Yeah. I come home and there's like so much stuff that I need to do. And I told Pat this earlier. There's so many things that need attention. Yeah. I won't even use the word fixed. I'll just say attention. Yeah. Like, where would you really start? And I guess number one, we would have to start with banning assault rifles. Yeah. I think that would be at the top of the list. Yeah, banning assault rifles. Stronger laws for domestic violence offenders. Mm-hmm. I think the abortion Roe versus Wade being overturned, it was not a good thing. I think I'm not in agreeing with that. Yeah, I mean, goodness, where would you start? Literally, where would you start?
Well,
if you were the
correct answer was make eggs 99 cents again. I don't know why that wasn't an easy fix, but
no. Yeah, lower gas prices and egg prices.
Yeah, I brought my dog to a groomer and I said, "You raised your prices." And she goes, "When eggs go down, we'll go down." I'm like, "Well, do you use eggs to wash my dog?" Like that doesn't even make sense. So yeah, I was like, come on now. Eggs and gas prices, let's stop. So, Christy Salters-Martin, International Boxing Hall of Famer, boxer, trainer, and somebody who has done so many things, including paying it forward in every which way, lent us so many great stories and definitely held up to what Christy said when she said this man tells the truth every time. John Iceman Scully and boxing photographer and PB&J's Lunchbox owner, Pat Orr, to each of you, thank you so much. This, honestly, to me, I don't know how to end this conversation because, John, I know you just got started telling stories. Christy, everything we get to do together. Pat, we've been, we work in business together and we built a friendship. I don't know how to say goodbye to any of you, so I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna say see you very soon is what I'm gonna say.
Thank you.
Next time, my friends.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Be safe, everybody.
Take
Great
care.
show, guys.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Take care. So with that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, we appreciate y'all and we invite you to break it. It was just decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicolli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicolli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there, and of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicollis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. This is a special message from 317 at Montgomery restaurant owner Joel Carpenter. Open Tuesday through Saturday for your dining pleasure on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York.
We wanted to be a part of the resurgence of Syracuse. We saw a lot of money being put into bringing people back downtown and thought that, we'd like to be a part of that. I love putting together a good dish where people see it first, they fall in love with it, and then it tastes just as good as it looks. We want to provide the best food in Syracuse that we possibly can, and we want you to leave here talking to your family, your friends about what you had to eat first and foremost, but also our service, and to walk out feeling like you're part of our family. I work out in the front of the house a lot, and I love walking to every single table, asking them how everything is, and people looking at me and smiling and saying, this is the most amazing short rib I've ever had. This is the most amazing filet I've ever had. And Donna is great. Sarah's amazing. Thank you for coming over and talking to us. And then them just being truly happy for the experience that they've gotten.
317 at Montgomery Restaurant, part of the fabric of downtown Syracuse, located on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York. Open Tuesday through Saturday for a unique and memorable dining experience. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, hanging out with you where sports meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora and cannot thank you enough for hanging out every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, as well as on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com. We're here in hour number 2 and appreciate your patience. We started to kind of lead into it here with a little primer thanks to Christy Salters Martin in Christy's Corner about the world of NIL, name, image, and likeness, and the world of the transfer portal, what it's doing to collegiate athletics. We're here to speak with Dave Pasiak about that. Dave, a longtime basketball head coach and analyst of the game, someone who has been in the collegiate world for many, many years, to have the opportunity to speak on so many different things when it comes to basketball, when it comes to the student athlete, SID work, so many different avenues he's taken and angles he's seen, which is why I lean on Dave a lot when we get to break down a big all these big topics, be it the NBA playoffs, basketball in general, where are high school sports at, prep school sports, to college to pro. Dave has been an asset in so many ways over a decade plus because of the wealth of knowledge that he provides. And I know that having the conversation on the transfer portal and NIL is something that we spoke about doing coming up this week, and we're here to do that today. And then we'll lead into the NBA playoffs with that. So with that being said, Mr. Pasiak, how are you?
Doing great, Dan. How about you?
I'm doing well. And I kind of just want to jump right into the world of NIL and all of this that we can talk about here today, NIL and the transfer portal, and to just open up to your thoughts and where you think things are at this point as we have this discussion.
Well, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It's like 1 year free agency professional sports is really what I mean. I know people have strong feelings on both sides of the issue, and I think that there's certainly a camp out there that thinks that the transfer portal and NIL rights and all that the student athletes are getting theirs, and schools and coaches and institutions are making a lot of money off college athletics, and now the student athletes are student athlete, I use that term lightly, at the major Division I level, but and I guess that's an unfair statement. That's painting with probably too broad of a brush, but I think that there's a sentiment that now that the athletes are getting their piece of the pie. On the other side of it, I think we've totally lost kind of what college athletics was in the student athlete. And for years there was, people like to say, well, professional athletes play for the name on the back of the jersey and college athletes play for the name on the front. And there's no truth to that whatsoever anymore at the major college level. It's, like I said, it's essentially 1 year free agency every year with the transfer portal. And, you see it at the Division I and II levels, and it's starting to filter into Division III. There's more Division III kids in the portal this year than there ever has been. I mean, in men's basketball, there's over 3,000 kids in the transfer portal right now. It's insane. I think kids are looking. I mean, it's a little bit of functional society where kids are looking for instant gratification, but I think it certainly adds a different dimension to coaching where player development and team development is almost put on the back burner, and schools are recruiting the transfer portal. And I think high school kids coming out of high school are getting squeezed a little bit in the process. And I think people blame that just on the transfer portal, and that a lot of that has to do with the extra year of eligibility and COVID. So that's a temporary condition. As more kids graduate within the next year or two, basically everybody that was affected by COVID will be, and got extra year, will be through the pipe. So, that impact on high school seniors that's a temporary condition. But I think, the win portal, the always, looking for a different opportunity. And the issue I have with it, and I know people that are strongly in favor of NIL and the portal and everything. The players are getting their piece of the pie because of money involved. Well, the reason that the players have value in the first place is because they're wearing the name of the college uniform. Okay. Jesse Edwards, you know him. I don't know him. You know him pretty well, Dan.
Yeah.
And so, I can't speak to him as a young man or anything like that. But just using that case as an example, Jesse Edwards didn't get the big NIL deal from West Virginia because he's Jesse Edwards. He got the NIL deal from West Virginia because he wore the Syracuse uniform and accomplished things as a collegiate basketball player wearing the Syracuse uniform. If he didn't go to Syracuse, he wouldn't be getting the NIL deal that he did in West Virginia. So to say that that the student athletes are not benefiting from playing in a particular school's uniform and playing for that school, I think that's a falsehood too. I think at the major for college football, major college basketball, the girl from Iowa, the women's basketball player, Clark. I mean, if she's playing in a semi-pro women's league, nobody knows who she is. The reason that she's going to get a lot of money in NIL and is prominent is because she did it in an Iowa uniform in the Division I women's basketball tournament on a national stage. So I think that we kind of lose the fact that elite level Division I athletes are building their brand just by playing in that school's uniform. And the education piece, obviously, if they take advantage of it, they're getting an education worth several $100,000, but that seems to be not really a priority anymore at the elite level Division I athlete.
Yeah, we're in this play, like you said. We're obviously Jesse Edwards gets help by playing at Syracuse. He gets help by wearing orange and blue, by being at the Dome, by having Jim Boeheim as your head coach. It puts you out there because people pay attention to Syracuse. And good, bad, or indifferent, people typically know what's going on with Syracuse, Kansas, Kentucky, certain teams around the North Carolina, Duke, and so on and so forth. So that's a normalcy for people to say, okay, what's going on? So I get your point that if Jesse Edwards was, playing at Butler or Quinnipiac, and it's no disrespect to those schools, I'm just mentioning schools, Butler or Quinnipiac, he's probably not going to get, he might get recruited by Virginia, and I'm going to call it recruited because that's what they're doing. They're recruiting a recruit, but probably not the NIL deal. And that you do benefit. You do benefit from the school that you go to. And, you think about it. I mean, Syracuse just got a transfer yesterday, and he comes from Auburn. So when people see Auburn, they think SEC, the kid's got to be good. I mean, if you know nothing about Chance and you only know that he came from Auburn, your mentality is Auburn, SEC, Power 5, good. And so, I mean, that plays to your point, because Syracuse could say, we got an Auburn transfer. We got a Notre Dame transfer. If Syracuse football got a transfer from Stephen F. Austin, nobody says boo. But if they get a transfer from Notre Dame, Ohio State, Miami, now all of a sudden people are like, oh, you got a transfer from Miami. What did they say about the offensive guard that came to Syracuse? They before people even knew his name, their statement was Syracuse got a transfer from the Florida Gators. That was the conversation. It was Syracuse gains Florida transfer. And so that is, I mean, it plays, like I said, completely to your point, that, when Chris Bleich came in, people knew that he came from Florida even before his name was Chris Bleich. So, before anybody knew his name, I should say. So, yeah, I mean, you benefit from the school that you're at. Number one, that school took a chance on you. That school wanted you. That school gave you a free education. If you're playing, in Division I, Division II, you could get money for going, you get tuition for that. Then, yeah, I mean, you've already gained a lot of things from it. But Dave, there's no parameters, right? There's little to nothing out there. If there are parameters, who the hell even knows them? And it just feels like this can happen at any time. I said in the first hour of the show, what's stopping a coach from shaking hands in the line at the end of the game when you're saying good game, good game, good game? What's stopping a Dave Pasiak from shaking hands with somebody? Let's say you're the head coach of Kentucky. What's stopping you from shaking the hands of a kid that's playing for Villanova and leaning in to him and saying, hey, call me after the game. Hey, after the season, I got something for you. You know what I mean? I feel like a coach essentially is recruiting when they're playing games now.
Yeah, well, I think if you want to know the truth, a little bit of that kind of scenario has been going on for years. So that,
yeah, absolutely,
it just was like flying under the radar, and nobody was talking about it. There have been instances at like the Division III and junior college level where after the game the coach will speak to the kid on the other team, hey, you should think about coming here next year. So that it's illegal and against NCAA rules, but has been going on the down low and kind of in the shadows for a long time. What's different now is it's right out there in the open, and it's the Florida Atlantic coach the week of the Final Four. He in press conference he talked about how 3 of his starters got approached by major college schools with NIL deals during the week leading up to the Final Four. It's insane. If you're a mid-major team, a mid-major player, and you make a name for yourself in the NCAA tournament, all of a sudden you've got power conference teams throwing a lot of money at you to get you to transfer. And it's the NCAA too. I think they're hesitant to draw any hard boundaries, because I think that the NCAA as an entity feels like as soon as they draw their line in the sand on some of these issues and, okay, this is allowable, this is not, which they do have rules on the books about, but, I know Iceman backed away at Syracuse, but he came out publicly and said things that, if you take the NCAA rules verbatim, are clearly violations, but it's going on all over the country, and the NCAA is basically taking a hands-off approach because they're going to get challenged in court, and they're afraid that they're going to lose. They probably would lose, and as soon as they lose, they lessen their grip on college athletics even more, because we're heading to a time where the Power 5 conferences are going to go off and do their own thing, and the NCAA will be will have lost, right now their cash cows are college football and the NCAA basketball tournament. And, if the Power 5 football schools were to break away, the NCAA would be fundamentally changed from what we know it is now.
Yeah, and I said years ago, I said I said at least a couple of years ago that I feel like the SEC will eventually become its own. And I feel like with the moves that were made in recent history by the Big Ten, I feel like the Big Ten's trying to follow. They're trying to follow suit, say, "Hey, wait for us." Where do you think we're heading? I mean, as of this morning, there's a mega conference in Division One AA that was just formed with the ASUN and the WAC, now the United Athletic Conference. So there's things that are going on. There's things that are happening. I've watched the bouncing ball, and the bouncing ball tells me that I think the SEC will try to get to 18 to 20 teams. I think they'll make a play for Clemson and Florida State, maybe Miami or something of that nature. And the SEC, I think the SEC is very viable that they could become their own thing because they don't really need anybody. And I could see that with the Big Ten. I also look at the fact that when it comes to the NCAA tournament and the college football playoff, there's an unfair advantage given to the SEC and the Big Ten, and the Big Ten more so, like we're seeing it a lot more in basketball now, but it was happening in football. And I almost wonder if that's kind of an underlying tone of like, hey, we want to build the narrative that we're the two best because we are going to break away. And we want to like build this over the years and say, well, if you want to watch the college football playoff, you want to watch a real national champion, you're going to have to pay attention to the, SEC and the Big Ten. And at the end of our seasons, we're going to play each other. And that's going to be the national champion. Where are we heading, Dave? Are we heading to a place of realignment that's going to start to break up Division One in at least college football?
Yeah, I think no question about it. I think you see that with the SEC and the Big Ten, and now you see the Big 12 getting into that mix. Like they're taking in 4 schools next year. I think the Big 12 initially, the move almost impacts college basketball more than college football, given the schools that they're bringing in. But I think at the end of the day, I think you see the ACC and the Pac-12 left behind, and definitely the SEC and the Big Ten, and I think the Big 12 is trying to position themselves as like the third mega conference. And I think in some way, shape, or form, whether it's the Power 5 that we see now, or like I said, if the ACC and the Pac-12 get left behind a little bit, it could be only 3 conferences or 4 conferences or 2 conferences even. I think the day is going to come where those schools are going to break away from the NCAA and do their own thing, especially as money continues to escalate and 16-team college football playoff. That's not necessarily, they'll give lip service to, we're going to increase access to the non-Power 5 conferences, but that's a bunch of baloney. It's going to be more, and you see in the NCAA basketball tournament too. Like, you're just seeing less mid-major teams and less non-Power 5 teams in the NCAA tournament every year, not more. And I think when you get things like a Florida Atlantic or a St. Peter's going to the Final Four, great stories in the moment, but I think the reality of that is, San Diego State this year is another example. The more schools from outside of the Power 5 break into the college football playoff, the NCAA basketball tournament, I think the quicker that's going to accelerate those groups breaking away and doing their own thing.
Yeah, I mean, and you bring up a unique point there saying, hey, seeing these non-quote unquote Power 5 teams advance is going to cause these schools to break. I mean, you look at the SEC, and arguably, even with expanding the college football playoff to 12, the SEC can argue that they deserve 6. And the difference between the SEC and the Big Ten, in my opinion, is the SEC gets an advantage, but they've earned it. The Big Ten gets an advantage, but they haven't earned it. And that to me is the stark contrast. You give the SEC a spot or a couple spots or a bunch of spots, they're going to come through 9 times out of 10. You give it to the Big Ten, the Big Ten's proven they don't come through. They have not come through in recent history. They're not a conference you can rely on. They have done nothing with 8 to 9 teams in the NCAA tournament the last 2 years. They've just wasted space. And when it comes to the college football playoff, 99.9% of the time, they're not doing anything. So, I think now if you expand it to 12, the SEC is going to say, okay, well, that means we deserve more spots. And they can say that because they've backed it up. But if you start saying, okay, Big Ten, we're going to let Michigan, Michigan State, and Ohio State in the college football playoff, well, then that's going to dilute everything to the point where I feel like the teams that are finally trying to get in are going to say, you know what? Now we want you to break away. We want you to leave. But I found it to be interesting, Dave, that you were saying the opposite. You were saying that, with these teams making it deep into the postseason that weren't anticipated to make it there, like FAU and San Diego State and so on and so forth, that these teams and these schools could essentially, in these conferences, could essentially accelerate the SEC and the Big Ten wanting to break away because of the fact that they're living in a world where they don't want to have to deal with that. They don't want to have to deal. So where a sports fan might think this is great, your argument is that the SEC and the Big Ten might say, this is nonsense. We don't want to be a part of it.
Exactly. And I think it's important to understand, too, that there's fundamental difference between college basketball postseason and college football postseason in that the NCAA doesn't control the college football playoffs. The NCAA owns the NCAA basketball tournament. So, I think the Power 5 schools really control the college football playoff. I mean, it's open to the other non-Power 5, championship series school or bowl division schools. The NCAA basketball tournament is like the cash cow for the NCAA, and shares are split up based on how far you advance and how many teams from your conference and all that. So I think that the more parity there is, or the more we see, it's a double-edged sword, because I think you get teams like Florida Atlantic where they've kind of been able to keep it the chances for a mid-major team to make a deep run in the NCAA basketball tournament, I think, are greater now because in the sense that if those teams can keep a nucleus together, there's something to be said for veteran leadership, senior dominating teams that has been together for a little bit. But I think the more that happens, you're exactly right. I mean, the power conference teams at some point, they say, why are we splitting this pie up with, with the rest of the other 2/3 of Division I? We'll break off and do our own thing. And, the NCAA basketball is interesting to follow. Like the NCAA basketball tournament, I think the powers that be, the NCAA and the networks and the advertisers and everything, I think the thing that makes the tournament special and unique and everything, I think they like seeing those, the Fairleigh Dickinson story or the St. Peter story of the first couple weekends. But, especially the first weekend. But by the time we get to Elite Eight, Final Four, the ratings will tell you that, they don't really want to see Florida Atlantic around. Ratings for the Final Four are down. They want North Carolina, Duke, Kentucky, UCLA, whoever the named schools. They want those schools when it comes to Final Four weekend. So, I think all of that, it's a complex issue, but I think, there's been chatter about expanding the NCAA basketball tournament to 96 teams a year. That subject comes up, and people think that's going to get a second team from the Metro Atlantic or the MEAC in the NCAA tournament. It's not. It's going to it's going to be more middling.
It's going to be all 14 Big Ten teams. It's going to be the whole Big Ten.
Yeah. So that's what it's going to be. So
it's ridiculous. I mean, it's absolutely not. But that's, and you know what? And that's the argument. And you know what, Dave? You brought it up, and I'm happy you did. But I've had a couple people come on the show and say that. And I had one of the coaches inside of the tournament this year actually share those sentiments that that's what he was looking for, that he wanted to see an expansion of it. And I spoke with the director of athletics at UAB and Mark Ingram talked to me about it and the fact that he thought they should double it. You know, he's a proponent of saying let's have if we have 68 right now, let's not even almost double it. Let's have 120 and let's put that out there. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, I love the tournament and I love expansion if it makes sense. And I think 120, and he said, but he's like, if there's 360 schools, 362 right now at St. Francis of PA, bowing out here, unfortunately. If you have that many, he said, well, 120 is only a third of the teams that are out there. And if you look at college football, it's more than 60% and this and that, and whatever. And so I understand the argument of the numbers, but what I don't understand is, that to me is way too many. And if you send it to 90 something, I think you're going to lose. I think you're going to lose people. I think you're going to lose viewership. Dennis Gates of the Missouri Tigers, he also said to me that he wanted to see an expansion of it, but he wanted to see an expansion of it so that we could see more teams from the conferences that we don't talk about enough. Now, on this show, we talk about them, but the conferences you don't hear about, the MAC, the MEAC, the SWAC, the conferences that don't get the respect that the WAC, we know the WCC because of Gonzaga and St. Mary's, but we do we talk about the WAC enough? Do we talk about the Horizon League anymore with the changes that it's been under? I have said multiple times FAU would have never made this tournament as an at-large bid because there was no respect for Conference USA. Case in point, North Texas and UAB were not a part of it. They played for the championship in the NIT. They went all the way to the end and played each other, but nobody was sitting. I didn't hear people talking about how they deserve to be in the NCAA tournament this year. So that to me, struck me some kind of way that they got no respect. And I truly, honestly believe that FAU would not have been given a spot if not for winning their conference tournament, because the committee was more than clear, at least in my opinion, that they didn't care about anything that happened in Conference USA this year. So, I'm a proponent of expansion if it means putting in other schools. But when you open that up, Dave, unless you put parameters in place, and how can you even word that? Because you don't know what's going to happen from year to year, but there's no guarantee that if we're already seeing 8 Big Ten teams, that if you expand it to 90-something, we won't see 11 Big Ten teams to take up more wasted space.
Yeah, that's where it's going to head. It's like, you look at college football with the bowl system. You only got to be 500. Yeah. So if you're 500 in a Power 5 conference, you go to a bowl game, everybody's happy. You go to the NIT in college basketball, your season's a failure. But you go to a bowl game in college football when you're 6-6, everybody thinks you have a great year. And coaches like it because it's job security. Oh, we went to a bowl game and all that. But so I think unless if they expand the tournament, they're not going to expand it with real tight guardrails. If the power conferences will never go for it if they put a cap on number of schools from a league. Yeah. And if they don't have some sort of a cap or some sort of insurance that teams from non-Power 5 conferences, like the access will create more opportunity for those schools, then you're exactly right. And we're going to see every Power 5 team that's got a 500 record is going to get in that large bid. You're going to see 16 and 15 teams going to the NCAA tournament because they played in the Big Ten or something, or the ACC. Yeah. So,
and what I thought was idiotic this year, if you had 11 to 13 losses in the Big Ten, you were considered to be worthy. And I remember not too long ago in college basketball, that if you had 10 losses, you were a little concerned. If you had 11, you were very concerned because you might be 18 and 13 or 18, whatever, 18, 11. If you had 11 to 13, if you had 13 losses, if Jim Boeheim had 13 losses, he'd be sitting there going, there's no way in hell they're going to let us in this tournament. So, I just looked at stuff, and that's what I said this year about the game, and it wasn't about the schools. It was no disrespect to the schools. It wasn't a lashing out or an attack of the schools. It was sheer honesty. I would say this about any school put in this ridiculous position. They said, Dan, what do you think about the 8-9 matchup between Maryland and West Virginia? I said, the matchup between two teams that don't deserve to be there? Whoever wins, it's a party, because it's like, It's like, you were given backstage access and you didn't even buy a ticket. So, I mean, it's some of these teams, I've looked around because I do this, because I take it at point to cover, 32 conferences and to look around the country and to see what people are doing, to talk with their commissioners, and the commissioner connection we've done over the last couple of years, where I, have the Big South and the Big West, and, we talk to people from all over. We'll get the ACC, and, we'll get, we'll have, coverage of the Big East, but I'm also going to have coverage of other conferences like the MAC that I had brought up, and we're going to discuss what's going on and have a pulse on everybody in the country. I don't know why it's got to be like this. I don't know. I really broke it down mathematically, and when I broke it down mathematically, it made me sad. There's 32 conferences, so there's 32 automatic bids. You take 32 automatic bids in 68, minus that out, basic math, which everything is changing in society. I don't look forward to the day that they tell us 1 + 1 is whatever we want it to be. But right now, 1 + 1 is still 2, I think. And so if you take 32 teams, 32 automatic bids, and you subtract that from 68, you have 36 at-large left. Of those 36 at-large, if you say the Big Ten, the Big 12, the SEC, the ACC, and the Pac-12, and you add the Big East into that, they can, in any given year, account for, outside of their automatic qualifier, they can account for 26 of those 36 remaining spots, which leaves 26 conferences fighting for 10 spots. And to me, Dave, that's where they lose me, is you have almost 30 conferences fighting for 10 bids, which to me it's not fair. It's not fair at all.
Yeah, it's like, it's been a soapbox issue for me for years, but it's not going to change. Like, the NCAA tournament, the intent of the tournament at the end of the day is to crown a national champion. All right, national champion of men's Division I basketball. Right, and I get it. Part of the magic of the tournament is set up to trip up the best teams. Like, NBA playoffs are set up to identify the best team and name crown them champion. The NCAA tournament is set up to kind of trip up the best teams a lot of more times than that. So I get that. But that being the case, like, if you can't finish in the top half of your conference, what claim do you have to play for a national championship? You're not even one of the top half of the teams in your own conference. And, like, now if you win your tournament, you win your way in, I got no problem with that. But short of that, you're exactly right. Like, I get frustrated every year when you see, the dregs of the ACC or the Big Ten getting at-large bids, finishing in the bottom half of their conference.
Yeah, and this thing happens. It happens all the time, and the thing with the Big Ten is they're not backing it up, and again, I'm not attacking the Big Ten. I'm talking about what's happening currently. If it was the SEC, it was the Big 12, would have said the same thing. But right now, the Big Ten is getting that unfair advantage. Where my frustration comes in, Dave, is that when people say, oh, there's no unfair advantage, it's all fair, Dan, oh, it's not this. Number one, don't speak that type of logic in front of my face and think that I'm just going to sit there and nod my head. But the other part of this is, I tell people this all the time. If you didn't believe anything I said before 2020, in the year of COVID, when they decided to play an abridged schedule, the stroking of the Big Ten was so tremendously apparent that it was laughable nonsense. And when the Big Ten decided to play a season 6 weeks in, as soon as they announced, like right after, they had 3 teams ranked in the nation's top 25 who didn't play a game. They had Ohio State in the top 10. I think they were 7 or 8. And so I'm looking at people going, okay, so we're 6 weeks into the season. The Big Ten hasn't played a game, and the media and the coaches think that Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State are 3 of the best teams in the country halfway through a season that they haven't played. And then it got even more crazy when Michigan at 0-0 went up 4 spots in the polls, and people that were playing games dropped. And then it got even more intense when Ohio State didn't play the amount of games they were supposed to play in order to qualify for the Big Ten championship game, and then they let him in anyways. And then they made sure the schedule was going to adhere to Ohio State's players healing from COVID so that they could play in the college football playoff. So it was special treatment, special treatment, special treatment, special treatment. And I go back to 2020 and I say, if you are 0-0 ranked in the nation's top 25 in the middle of the season, you can argue with me about everything until the cows come home, but you can't argue that. And you can't argue Michigan going up 4 spots at 0-0. That was one of the most, that might have been the craziest thing I've ever seen in sports in my life. And up to this point. So to me, because I cover these schools, because I cover these conferences, because I don't know, pay attention and try to just watch good basketball, for example, and not just watch the people they tell you to watch, I would put FAU above Duke this year. I would. John Shire had a nice run at the end, but I'd put FAU above Duke. I would put Memphis above a bunch of teams out there that Memphis didn't get any credit for the work that they did this year. And, you know, I think North Texas and UAB made it clear that they should have been in the tournament. And NC State got in the tournament, but Clemson, who beat them, didn't. That didn't make any sense to me. So every year there's always something that doesn't make sense. But there has to be fairness. And when we come back and kind of spin it full circle here, Dave, to talk about fairness, how do we live in a fair world with NIL and the transfer portal? Or can we ever?
It seems like it's a runaway train. You know what I mean? The other thing that people don't understand about this whole thing is they say, you know, people cite strength of schedule. Well, it's not an even playing field because Colgate's going to play at Syracuse every single year. All right. If you're a mid-major team, the only way let's say, well, you have to go out and play people. We always have to play those people on their court, on their field. It's not a level playing field. So, the thing is, the money is so great in college athletics, major college basketball, major college football. The money is so great that everybody's concerned at the end of the day is how do I get the biggest piece of the pie for myself?
Yeah. And this is where we're sitting. This is where we're at. This is the world of it doesn't make sense and it hasn't made sense and who knows if it'll ever make sense. But, like you said, it's a runaway train. I think it's a runaway train with no track that's on fire. And I'm not against student athletes making something off of $1 billion industry that pretends that they're a non-for-profit. But I think there has to be parameters, and it never felt right to me. It never felt right to me when boosters would come out publicly and say, "I'll give $1 million to whoever wants to come play for my school." Like that, to me, it always made me feel dirty. It made me feel weird, and I was like, "Can you say that? You can't say that. Can you say that?" And so, I don't see things. That I just don't see that that's a good thing. I don't see it's a healthy thing. I don't see it's something right to do in the world of collegiate athletics. And so I've just stayed away from all of that. I've stayed away from that collective stuff. I've stayed away from rich people saying, I'm going to give money to whoever wants to come here. And I'm just like, hey, back in the day, if you came out publicly and said that, the AD would want to kill you. And so, that would be a death penalty immediately. Because it's so blatant and it's right out there to the world. So, Dave, to shift gears here, because we can continue to have this conversation, we will, about NIL and the transfer portal, because it is crazy and it continues to be crazy. And there are no parameters, which makes no sense. But as we head to the NBA playoffs, there are parameters. However, the NBA playoffs didn't start out the way that some people might have imagined seeding-wise. It hasn't been what people necessarily thought it was going to be. I can't say I'm surprised in certain things that have happened, but I guess some people are. The NBA has started off in round one with a very interesting world of the road team being able to capture a victory before they go home, knowing that they could be in the driver's seat in a big, big way. I would love to get your take on what's going on here with the NBA playoffs, and we can start wherever you'd like to start.
Well, I think good place to start is my Sixers being up 2-0.
Yeah.
So Sixers, kind of did what they needed to do. The other series, it's 2 games in. I've been really impressed with Sacramento. I think going in, they were a little bit of an unknown quantity, and there was a sense that Golden State, with their championship pedigree, and as games come down the wire and get tight, you would think the Warriors would have an advantage. But on the one hand, the Kings, they held serve, which is what you need to do when you're the higher some. So Kings being up 2-0, even though they have the home court, little bit of a surprise there, the way the games unfolded. Sixers being up 2-0, I think, they took Brooklyn's best shot last night and still came out on top. I think that series is probably going 5 at most. Other things that have been surprised so far, I think the teams that come out of the play-in, sometimes they've got a little advantage in game 1. And, this got talked about a little bit, but, the Heat especially, and Giannis getting hurt during the game certainly is a huge factor. And if he's not healthy or not 100%, that really cripples Milwaukee's chances of making a deep run in the postseason. They need him to be healthy and playing at or close to his best. But Miami, they've got the momentum of coming out of the play-in, and they're in a little bit of rhythm from playing a couple of games. And that those teams that are off for that whole week, and you see historically where the play-in teams have a chance to steal that first game. And Miami did that. The Lakers did that. I think injuries with Giannis, injuries with Morant. I think Tyler Hero, like Miami, I think, they got the game 1 win, but that Tyler Hero injury, I think, is going to impact them fairly significantly going forward. So, so the Lakers and the Heat grabbing that first game when they're in a little bit of rhythm, and the team they're playing have been off for a full week. I don't think it's certainly panic time for the Bucks or the Grizzlies, but the Lakers are playing awfully well, and I think that in combination with Morant being dinged up, we talked about this last week. Wouldn't be a surprise to see the Lakers win that series. Would still be a big surprise to see the Heat beat the Bucks. I think Denver looks like a much better team than Minnesota. I think Boston looks like a much better team than Atlanta. The 2-4-5 series, pretty interesting. I think health and who's going to be available and who's going to be healthy is really going to impact the Suns-Clippers series. I don't think it's a panic time for either the Suns in the West or Cleveland in the East. Being down 1-0, we expect good series on those 4 or 5 matchups. But that said, the next game, I think, is really like both of those series. Game 2 is tonight, and I think there's a little pressure on Phoenix and a lot of pressure on Cleveland to go down 0-2 at home. I think would be a tall mountain for either one of those teams. So I think I would expect both of those series to end up 1-1 after tonight. But if one of those teams falls behind 0-2 and then going on the road, they're in a little bit of trouble. So I think we hit all of them there, right?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that I want to get into here. One of them is, am I crazy for believing that the Knicks, I know they start this series on the road, but I feel like they're the better team in this matchup. Am I crazy for that?
I thought going in, it's kind of a pick-em. I'll stop short of saying the Knicks are a better team, but I think that's a pretty even series. Wouldn't shock me to see Cleveland win. Wouldn't shock me to see the Knicks win. I think it's a series that, if the Knicks win that series 4-0, 4-1, or Cleveland comes back, wins 4 in a row, that would really surprise me. To me, that series is one that, like, of all of the first round series, I thought that one had probably the highest probability of getting extended to like 6 or 7 games. So I'll stop short of saying the Knicks are a better team, but I think that series, I think, is really evenly matched.
And then the Nuggets. I mean, are they for real? I feel like people want to talk about other teams. I feel like they want to talk about the Lakers. They want to talk about Sacramento. They want to talk about the Suns. They want to talk about the Clippers. The Nuggets are the number one seed in the West. Are they for real? For real? Or what's your take on them? Because it seems like even though they're the number one seed, some people are still kind of laughing them off, saying, "Well, they're not going to make it to the final."
Well, I mean, they've got home court throughout the Western playoffs, which is going to be huge. In Denver, just because of the altitude, I think is probably a little bit more of a home court than most anybody else in the NBA. So that certainly works to their favor. I think it's important for a team like Denver. I mean, Minnesota looked bad in Game 1, and I think if you're Denver. And, Jokic is such a high usage guy. I think that you don't want to mess around. Like they want to get rid of the Timberwolves in 4 or 5 at the most. So I think not having to play additional games, especially because, I mean, Suns and Clippers could be a long series. The bottom half of that bracket, I think Kings, Warriors, Grizzlies, Lakers, both of those have potential to be, fairly extended series. So I think if you're Denver, you're sitting in a great spot because, Minnesota may grab a game along the way, but I really don't think that's going to be a long series. So I think the more you get the downtime, the rest time, and you keep your guys healthy and fresh, and that in combination with playing in the high altitude, I mean, I think they got a great chance to come out of the West. I don't know if they can beat the top 3 teams in the East because they won't have home court advantage against either Philly, Boston, or Milwaukee. But I think they have a great chance to come out of the West.
Yeah, and in the other side, to keep with the West, Sacramento. I mean, this is a team that you and I talked about. Has risen out of the basement. I mean, they spent a long time in relative obscurity and have found their way out of that this season in such a big way. They're up 2-0 on the Warriors. Is this the end of Golden State? Is this the end of Steph and Draymond and Clay? Where is Golden State now? Will this series secure that life in Golden State is going to change and a new era has begun, or what is that? What does this series say to you?
Well, we'll see what happens in the next couple of games because great stat on that series. This is the first time the Warriors have been down 0-2 in a series since like 2007, and the first time Curry's ever been down 0-2 in the Western playoffs. So it's really, on the one hand, I was really, really impressed with how the Kings played the first couple of games. And they're a fun team to watch. And what's really interesting with them is, Mike Brown had always had the reputation of being a good defensive coach and not being very creative offensively. And Sacramento's a really good, historically good offensive team. It's like, does not look like a Mike Brown team from some of his past coaching tenures. But in terms of the Warriors, Father Time is undefeated. And, I think, no question, there's been slippage with, Klay Thompson and Draymond, they still, on a given night, they still show you why they're all-star caliber players. But you don't get the same, they're not at the same level game in and game out that they were a few years back. And you can probably say the same thing about Curry to an extent. If they can stay amongst the better NBA teams, I think you're going to have to see a changing of the guard where, some of the younger players that are kind of complementary guys right now take more of a lead role. Wiggins is like a mid-career guy. So we talk in a week, we could be talking about the demise of the Warriors and the Kings really being a threat. Or if Golden State holds serve at home, we're having a whole different conversation. And if it's 2-2 after going to Golden State, it's a whole different conversation. So I think the next couple games will be really telling.
Yeah, here with Dave Pasiak, longtime basketball coach and analyst, speaking on the NBA playoffs here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. The Clippers the Paul George factor, I mean, there has been, what do they call him, playoff Paul a few years ago. And then they made a joke that Charles Barkley said, "I don't call myself Championship Chuck." But, we have playoff Paul, and Paul George, he's talented. He's a hell of a player. He's been injured a bunch. Are the Clippers, I know they got a game against Phoenix, but are they a threat in your opinion? What are they right now with Kawhi, and what's your thoughts on the future of Paul George? As I feel like we're unfortunately doing a cut and paste and saying it's playoff time, Paul's injured. And I just feel like we're getting to a point now with Paul George where do you want to spend the money on a guy who's not going to be out there? And at the same time, I'd love to get your thoughts on the Clippers when they've gotten a game against Phoenix, but can they hold on? Do they have enough firepower against a team like Phoenix?
Well, I mean, Kawhi gives, he serves up a little notice, from time to time that he's still, in the top handful of guys in the NBA. Between injuries and whatnot, and he has, they have load managed him a lot. So, you still got him as the top dog. Westbrook really seems to have fit in there better than he was, significantly better than he was as a Laker. And, that's looking, at least in the short run, like it was a good move for the Clips. If they can get George back playing at any kind of high level, they can win that series and they can be a threat. I think the roster, the thing with them is I don't think they've had, of course Westbrook was a mid-season pickup and everything. So, I don't think they've had a lot of time and a lot of cohesiveness together as a team and as a unit where everybody's been healthy, everybody's been playing. So they could be a team that gets better and kind of gets rolling as the playoffs go along if they get everybody back healthy. And I think the other thing that's Ty Lue probably doesn't get the respect he deserves as an NBA head coach. I think he's a guy who, historically, he's never talked about as being one of the elite coaches in the league, but I think he's a guy that is really good at keeping the boat in the water when teams are faced with adversity. I thought he was that way at Cleveland and, was a big factor in them coming back 3-1 to win the championship years ago against the Warriors. But, I think he's a championship pedigree coach. And I think, there's value in that and he's got credibility in the locker room. So, I think there's value in those things as the playoffs progress. Huge game. If they can go up 2-0 at Phoenix, then I think the Suns are really gripping. And again, Paul George's health, Durant's health, playoff time, a lot of times it comes down to who's got the most healthy bodies, amongst their core guys.
Yeah, coming here from longtime basketball head coach and analyst Dave Pasiak on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. Speaking on the NBA playoffs, on the Eastern side of things, before I let you go, Dave, here in the well, actually, I want to make a note here on Russell Westbrook. Are you surprised that he's still living in a world of being in that double-double atmosphere? 9 points, 8 assists, 11 rebounds in that Game 1 win, 115-110 on the road at Phoenix. There's been a lot of things said about Russell Westbrook, but he still lives in that triple-double world. What's your take on the guy?
Well, he's he's a polarizing guy. And, in Oklahoma City, it was how hard Russell Westbrook plays. First guy to average triple-double in forever since Oscar Robertson and all that kind of thing. And I think he's another guy that's been a high-usage guy. So I don't think you see the game in and game out Russell Westbrook, but I think he seems to have carved out a little niche for with the Clippers where, he's capable It's kind of like when Sinatra, was in his last years performing. And people say, well, he's not the Sinatra he used to be, but, on one night or in one set, he gives you a reminder of what he used to be. And there's a little bit of that with Russell Westbrook. He's not the player that he was, certainly during, at his prime, MVP prime. But he's a guy that, the things he does, he's obviously a good rebounder guard, and at his, like you said, like still kind of is in the triple-double waters all the time. He's a guy that like has value to a team like the Clippers. So, seems to have found a much better fit there than he had with the Lakers.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's extreme. I mean, you don't hear about it. You don't hear about guys averaging triple doubles. You don't hear. I mean, historically, it's not like, oh, this guy did it this year and this guy did it the next year and this guy did it the year after that. It's like, oh, nobody did it for 20 years or 40 or whatever it may be. I mean, it's a very tough feat to have. And at this point in his career, where everybody's kind of saying, I don't want to say everybody's saying, but when people are kind of forgotten of Russell Westbrook, here he is doing something that you never see. And I want to shout out that stat sheet, because when you see a guard rebounding the ball and getting out there, dishing out assists, finding some shots for himself and some opportunities for himself, he deserves the respect of that, especially to be in a world that is so small when we talk about being able to do a bunch of different things well and not just one singular thing. So I respect that very, very much so. To head in the East before I let you go, Dave, I know you talked a little bit about your Sixers here. We got 3 games that are going to be happening tonight, Tuesday, April 18th. We got a game at 7 o'clock on NBA TV, and that's going to be the Hawks at the Celtics, Game 2. We have Game 2 between the Knicks at the Cavs, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on TNT. And at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, approximately, following the Knicks-Cavs, we're going to have on TNT as well, Clippers at Suns. Bring me into what you think is going to happen in these series. Do we see the Hawks do anything against Boston? Do the Knicks go up 2-0 on the road, or does that series even out? And the Clippers and the Suns, do the Clippers put the Suns in a place where they start to cool off a little bit?
Yeah, I'll start with Hawks Celtics. Boston's a really talented team. You got a superstar go-to guy in Tatum, a great wingman in Brown. Boston might be as talented a roster top to bottom as there is in the NBA. So they're obviously the significant favorite in that series. Atlanta is a funny team and has been for past several years. I think it's a team that, if you believe what you read and you hear, there's a little bit of question about locker room chemistry. Trae Young, is he toxic, or is there a toxic locker room there? If you remember back a couple of years, they brought in Nate McMillan mid-year, kind of turned the ship around, and I think he's a guy who's never gotten the credit he deserves as a head coach. Turned him around, they upset the Sixers in the playoffs, and looked like a team with a young core that was poised to kind of ascend to the upper level of the NBA. But they've just kind of been a regular season floundering team since then, and it's been the same story every year. Make a push at the end of the year, and then enter the playoffs kind of in a little better place. Nate McMillan and the team grew tired of one another, and they make the change this year. Now they got Quinn Snyder, and it seems like the same kind of thing where they're making a little push late in the season. They're talented. I think that team's a little bit too erratic to really pose a serious threat to a team as talented as Boston. I think that's a 5-game series too, probably. We talked a little bit earlier about the 2-4-5 matchups. I think the pressure's really on Cleveland and Phoenix tonight to even those series, because I think in both cases, I think they're both evenly matched series on paper and intuitively, but I think if you go down 0-2 at home, that's a tough hole to climb out of in the NBA. It really is. So I think Cavaliers and Suns, I think the pressure is on both of those teams to level those series tonight.
Yeah, and I got some feeling on this. I got a feeling about Cavs maybe evening this one out in tonight against the Knicks. We'll see. So as we look at this, we're going to get into the ingredients to success in a second, but I wanted to let you know we put some polls out on Twitter. We do this all the time, all throughout the year. So we ask you to join us on Twitter at CallDT. That's CALLDT, and vote in our polls that are up here right now. But who do you believe will win the Eastern Conference in this year's NBA playoffs? Right now, the voting is 50% Philly, 40% Boston, 0% Milwaukee, 10% somebody else. And in the West, you have voted 38.5% for the Denver Nuggets, 23.1% for Sacramento, 23.1% for another team outside of the three teams that I put in the poll, which Phoenix got 15.4%. So almost 40% believe it's going to be Denver, then Sacramento, Phoenix only getting 15.4% of the vote. And then, like I said, in the East, half of the votes have come in for Philly and 0% have come in for Milwaukee. Are you surprised, not surprised at the polling so far?
Well, I think you got a little recency effect in your polling. I think I'm not believing that like almost a quarter of your listeners had the Kings going out of the West before the playoffs started. So there's a little recency effect there. And the same thing with the Bucks. Bucks being down 0-1 and Giannis being dinged up. I would think that like if you took the same survey before the playoff, before any games were played, I think you might see that number a little bit higher. But on the other hand, you got smart listeners. Half of them say the Sixers are coming out of the East. So
I can appreciate that with Dave being a big-time Sixers fan. It's time for the ingredients to success, proudly presented by the fantastic team at Avicolli's. They are on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York, the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road. They are literally right down the street from Liverpool High School. You can walk there from the high school, and we suggest that you do so. Come right over into your community partner that has been there for so many years, your neighbor of many decades. Avicolli is open from Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We also ask that you drink responsibly. 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York. For takeout, delivery, and catering, call 315-622-5100. That's 315-622-5100 for Avicolli's. Dave, we're going to do a full circle here, back to NIL and the transfer portal. What are the ingredients to success in getting this NIL and transfer portal under control? What do we do from here as a positive move or moves in the right direction?
Boy, I don't know if there is an answer to that, Dan, to be honest with you. I think the horse is out of the barn a little bit. I mean, you'd like to say, like, rein it in and put some limitations, but the horse is out of the barn. I just, we've entered a territory where, if you're looking for keys to success in the individual schools, it's like have some boosters that are willing to throw around a lot of money. I mean, I don't think even if they went to a model where the institutions were able to directly offer money to kids, I think that wouldn't change anything because you're not going to take the outside influence, and the people with the deepest pockets come out on top most of the time. So. Yeah. I really don't think there is from a systemic standpoint, I don't think there really is anything on the horizon that can rein that in significantly. From the individual school standpoint, I think that, if you're judging it by on-court, on-field success, I think it's a matter of having an engaged booster, set of boosters with a lot of money and engaged supporters that really, are willing to basically buy players. So I think that's kind of where we're at with it.
Yeah. So the ingredients to success, according to Dave, nothing. But I'm kidding. But the reality is, for me, I think there needs to be a cap. There needs to be some type of cap on how much money a player can individually sign, and I think that there needs to be window periods where who's going to be transferring in or out. I think the window periods help with the transfer portal, and having a set time period where you can enter or exit So that would be helpful so that you actually know who's going to be on your roster, especially when it comes to football and you got like 100 players on the roster. And in cases like Syracuse in recent history, you're trying to bring in 20 guys, but you're losing 20 guys. So now do you have to bring in 40 or you bring in half a team? So, I think windows for that. I think that they're not going to do this, but I think if you brought back the year in residency, less people would transfer because nobody wants to sit out and everybody wants to play. So there should be some parameter to the transfer portal as far as windows go. If they took away the free year to just go wherever you want and play immediately, that would definitely stop free agency from running as rampant as it is in collegiate athletics. And I think that you got to put a cap on the amount of money that somebody can make. Should an 18-year-old be handed a $10 million opportunity from a school or from when we look at the situation of a business doing that? I also think that schools should be penalized for utilizing NIL in the transfer portal. I think that if they use it as a recruiting tool, there needs to be something written, because that used to be called boosters and that used to be illegal and people used to get in trouble. So they need to restore Jim Boeheim's wins. They need to apologize to John Calipari. They need to, apologize to Kelvin Sampson for the show cause penalty that they gave him. I mean, essentially, if the world is going to look totally different and what's not a crime used to be a crime, what they need to really honestly figure out, in my opinion, when it comes to this, is making sure that you're not using NIL in the transfer portal. You're not recruiting people based on money, because then there is no amateurism. Then it essentially is free agency, and these schools are franchises and they're signing players. And that's all this is. So NIL and transfer portal need to be detached. You do that by penalizing schools and individuals, but the NCAA has proven over time that they only penalize who they want to. They turn a blind eye to the people that they don't. No one's treated with the same penalty if they're even given a penalty. Some people have kid gloves and some people are punched in the face. So in my reality, the NCAA needs a check and balance on them. There needs to be a ruling body to watch them, and then they need to watch collegiate athletics and the institutions that are out there, because as of right now, the NCAA has no leg to stand on, because if you commit crime A, well, if you're this school, you have punishment 1, that school gets 2, that school gets 3, that school 4 gets nothing, and none of that makes any sense to me. So you either treat everybody the same or find another ruling body to do it, because the NCAA right now is dealing with the fact that there's a lot of unfairness in sports, but with all due respect, they kind of created that too, because they've been completely unfair in how they handle institutions, divisions, and conferences. So with that being said, the answer is that there is no clear-cut answer, but we're 3 years into it, Dave, and I said I had more questions than answers at the beginning. I have more questions than answers now. A lot of my questions have stayed the same, and a lot of them have no answers. So that has shown me that we haven't grown. And if you do anything, no matter how long it takes, you always have to take a step forward. So the NCAA and everyone around this that's dealing with NIL and the transfer portal, at the very least, someone has to show me we're taking a significant step forward. I don't care if it's a baby step, but we need to do something in 3 years to make it look like something's being done. And as of right now, we haven't taken one step forward. And I would appreciate if we just put our pinky toe in the pool so that I could see that there's any move in the right direction.
Well, don't disagree with anything he said. I just think, they did do the one thing that they have done that you mentioned is they put a little bit of bounds on the transfer portal about when it opens up and when it closes. It used to be like free reign 12 months a year. So they have bounded that at the Division I level. I'm not convinced that it's having the intended effect that they thought it would. I think if anything, it's caused more kids to go in portal because of the uncertainty of their own situations at their own schools, and in combination with the high level guys declaring for the NBA draft and testing the waters there. But I think college athletics, the way we kind of remember it and romanticize about it, I think that is likely dead. So I think for better or for worse. And, my perspective, I think a lot of it's for worse. I think what college athletics is at the high levels, at the Division I level, the major college level, I think that's changed and it's not going back. So that's kind of where we are.
Well, with that being said, I'll go cry my tears on this commercial break. But Dave, you're not lying. But Dave, always here to tell the truth and always here to impart a lot of knowledge and wisdom on the game and on life. And we are where sports meets life at Wake Up Call. So it's an honor and a privilege to talk with you, my friend. I appreciate you tremendously, and I look forward to having you back on the show very soon. And I hope you enjoy the trio of games tonight.
All right, you enjoy the games as well. Always great to talk to you, Dan.
All right, take care, Dave.
We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
See you later. That coming from Dave Pasiak one more time here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. We'll take a step aside for a fast break, and we will wrap things up here on Wake Up Call as we have gone well over once again, and that's with love. Under promise, over deliver. We'll be back right after this.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville beats. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, hanging out with you where sports meets life. Thank you so much for being here with us every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. You're with us on Facebook.com, YouTube.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, Facebook.com /LiveNowDT, and you're here with us on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com. Once the shows go live, they hop into our archives on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes and Apple Podcasts, MixLR, Player FM, Podbean, Podvine, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, and YouTube, as well as other places as well. We just added a few, so you can find us on any one of these outlets by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora or by searching one word, Wake Up Call DT. And a big shout out to our incredible team, Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, Wildcat Sports Pub, as well as Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Mon Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, 317 at Montgomery Streets, our 5-star restaurant in downtown Syracuse that we love so very much, PB&J's Lunchbox, Great Lakes Honda City, Chick-fil-A Watertown, Pizza Man, Canine Campground, Dog Boarding, Mother's Cupboard, the home of my exclusive breakfast sandwich, the Cuse McMother. You can get it 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. by going in to Mother's Cupboard on 3709 James Street in Syracuse, New York, and ask for the Cuse McMother. The board is up there. You can see my picture, a picture of the sandwich, and all the information on how you can listen to the show. The Cuse McMother on the orange board at Mother's Cupboard, exclusively only at Mother's Cupboard, and you can get it any day of the week. Bacon, egg, and cheese inside of 2 pieces of French toast. Pick it up and eat it like a sandwich, or cut it up and put some syrup on it. Chick-fil-A Cicero, Chick-fil-A Clay, Avicolli's, and Wake Up Call is the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your It is Fins Up every single month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. Appreciate the Dolphins for all we get to do with their wonderful coaches and student athletes. Cannot thank them enough for all the stories we get to tell over the last couple of years almost now that we have been having this exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with Lemoyne. We bring you AD and DT every first and third Wednesday of each month with Athletics Director Bob Beretta and myself, Dan Tortora. Every second and fourth Wednesday, we bring you the Dolphin Dive, diving into stories of student athletes, coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni. You can find all this content by going to the Lemoyne tab on wakeupcalldt.com, as well as by subscribing to our YouTube channel on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. For more information on your Dolphins, go to LeMoyneDolphins.com. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse. The Bobcat Buzz comes with you exclusively on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora monthly, and we have stories with student athletes, administration, and coaches of the Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse. We've done some great things with the baseball team in their inaugural season, which is still going on. And, of course, we have featured national championship teams, the men's soccer team at Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse, the women's soccer team. And, of course, we have featured two teams that have made it to the national tournament, men's and women's basketball. We have given you our exclusive sit-down conversations from Mother's Cupboard, PB&J's Lunchbox, as well as on-site at Bryan and Stratton College on James Street in Syracuse, down the road from Mother's Cupboard. Don't miss any of the content by going to the BSC Syracuse tab on wakeupcalldt.com, subscribing to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. And for more information on your Bobcats, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com. We will take one final step aside here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora and wrap things up after this.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
This is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, you can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? This is a special message from Merritt Brady, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Watertown on 1290 Arsenal Street in Watertown, New York.
Chick-fil-A for me has always been about the people. I think it starts with the strength and leadership of the Cathy family. It's just amazing to see a family-run business reach the altitude that they have. Second mile service is something that we embodied at my previous business, and the ability to make people feel like they're the only person at your establishment, that you are there to serve them that day and looking for those extra ways to make them happy, to anticipate what they need next is what makes me tick. And I'm going to have so many opportunities at Chick-fil-A to do that. It's one of my favorite things to eat in the world. My favorite application question or interview question when I'm interviewing is when I get to, have you ever eaten at Chick-fil-A? And a smile hits both their ears. They can't even answer the question for a second. And when I see that, it's like, man, that's going to be a great hire. They already get it. They already feel it. They already know that we're different. The Chick-fil-A experience, it's a real thing. And then, of course, just our generosity and community involvement and making a positive impact in the lives of our team members, our guests, and the community in general, I think is really the secret sauce.
Here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, hanging out with you where sports meets life. I want to give a special thank you to all my incredible guests today inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin'. Big time thanks to everyone in Christy's Corner, and I'm so proud to be in Christy's Corner myself, figuratively and literally. So big shout out to Christy, and many thanks for allowing me the opportunity to create a segment that she wanted to do. I'm honored. I sent her the idea. I said, this is what I want to do. I'll build a logo for it. And she was all about it, plain and simple. She made it very easy. It's here for you bi-monthly, every other Tuesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. So big thanks to International Boxing Hall of Famer, the champ, Christy Salters-Martin. Big time shout out to trainer, author, and former boxer himself with 38 career wins, 21 knockouts, I believe, John Iceman Scully. And a big time shout out to Pat Orr for being the exclusive sponsor through PB&J's Lunchbox to Christy's Corner, and for being an awesome human being and a fantastic boxing photographer. Many thanks to Dave Pasiak, my good friend of many, many years, over a decade. Somebody who, when I came back to Syracuse and was on the Score 1260, was one of my first guests, if not my first guest, and has been with me ever since. Big time thanks to Dave Pasiak and for his conversation on NIL, as well as the transfer portal, what to do next with college athletics, and the NBA playoffs conversation. And a shout out to the wonderful, wonderful, incredible team of fantastic human beings and wonderful food at Avicolli's, 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York, down the road from Liverpool High School, and the exclusive home of my Liverpool Warriors sit-down conversations with the student athletes, coaches, and administration all throughout the year. Many thanks to Liverpool, to the Warriors, to the high school in general, to the community of Central and Upstate New York, to the beautiful community within that of Liverpool, and to all of you, led by John and the team at Avicolli's. Thank you, thank you, thank you for awesome food. Thank you for the barbecue chicken pizza. You've done right by me with that, and the margarita pizza, and literally everything I've gotten there. Thank you for the awesome flavors of Avicolli's and the memories. The last Mother's Day that G-Mama got to have here on this earth was spent right there at Avicolli's. So thank you for the memories, not just with my family, but with so many families in our community and beyond. Thank you, Avicolli's, for being a part of our positive memories in our lives. And I implore you all to go out there Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. Drink responsibly. And you can call them for catering as well as takeout and delivery, 315-622-5100. That's 315-622-5100. Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. I added a bunch of stuff with Lemoyne Baseball. My interview with Dick Rockwell is up there, who is a legend. Don't miss any of those. My Bart Holstein conversation as well. Fantastic. Talking about his brother Eric getting honored in his number 13, and then both playing for Dick Rockwell at Lemoyne. Don't miss any of those, and they're on all of our social media. They're also on youtube.com/Wake Up Call DT. And as I always say to you, God bless, no stress, do your best. Do something nice for yourself today, and be good to each other. I'll talk with you soon.